which is the IEBC Operations Nav Center for the 2022 elections. Now, the tussle between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto over the 2022 succession politics has continued to unfold, with the head of state now saying he has no intention of killing his deputy or other leaders making such claims. Speaking during the commissioning of Nairobi expressway, President Kenyatta stated that for the last 3 years, Ruto and allies have been on a spree of mudslinging and insulting him while he remained silent. President Kenyatta pointed out that there is no need for insults, urging Kenyans to maintain peace during this period. And Deputy President William Ruto has vowed to lower the prices of farming products if elected in the August 9th general election. Speaking while on the campaign trail in Nandi County and part of Western Kenya, Ruto said he would lower fertilizer prices from 6,000 shillings to 2,500. Ruto further asked the president to allow administrators do their job as per the law. And Catholic bishops have urged the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission to instill confidence on the validity of the general election to preempt chaos in the country. At the same time, the bishops have called on politicians to tone down on their abuses against each other in public and conduct mature campaigns. Addressing a press conference on behalf of other bishops, Nyeri Catholic Archbishop Anthony Moheria said that it's important for the commission to explain to Kenyans steps they are taking to ensure the polls are free and fair. And Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has scoffed at the attempts by United Democratic Alliance flag bearer William Ruto to have him join his political fold by promising him to top position once he clinches government. While in a campaign to Nyeri County, Musyoka asked Ruto to leave him out of his politics and focus on wooing the electorate. Ruto, during a campaign tour in Kitui County, had claimed the former vice president had been lied to by Raila Odinga by being offered a non-existent position in the constitution. Musyoka in his response said that the dishing out of positions was not entirely for the benefits of certain communities, but for all Kenyans to benefit from the next government. And Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party presidential running mate Martha Karua has assured their opponents in Kenya Kwanza that their government will protect them if they are sent to power come August, taking the campaigns to Nandi County. The National Rainbow Coalition Kenya party leader had stated that their government will strictly execute its mandate as stated by the Constitution. She further noted that their government will not favor anyone and the rule of law will cut across the board regardless of the relationship she has with anyone. Still on Azimio and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Secretary General Junet Mohammed has termed as fake news leaked audio of a man alleged to be him having talks with one of the commissioners at the electoral agency, IEBC. Mohammed termed the fake audio as a desperate attempt by their rivals to mudsling and bring down the efforts of the Raila Odinga coalition. 8 days to the general election, the Suna East MP went further to call upon investigative agencies to look into the matter and bring to book those found culpable of the mischief. And finally, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has ordered all schools to allow their students to wear the different religious regalia like hijabs and veils. His directive comes after reports that some head teachers and principals have been sending students home because of donning their religious attires. Speaking in Nandi County, where he was commissioning competence-based curriculum classrooms, the CS urged school heads to avoid discriminating the students based on their religion. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
This nation has never healed genuinely from the 2000-2008 violence. We've never had a healing process. We swept it under the rug.
Let me tell you, the handshake was the most disastrous political event in the history of country after the coup attempt of 1982.
There is no Kikuyu pothole, no lack of water,
right.
or Kamba, lack of traffic.
Yeah.
There is no Luya lack of drugs in the hospitals. Or Jaluo one. All our issues are the same issues.
If you are in a room and just about everybody in that room has a court case or another. What impression does that give you?
What are you saying? Why haven't you done it in the last 20 years? But they're telling us, like August, some miracle is going to happen. My friend, I want to tell Kenyans you'll be in for a rude shock.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, Monday morning is just started and it looks like it's going to be a busy one. Traffic has already begun on Langata Road this morning and it's getting towards that roundabout as you then head either towards the great lower Langata Road, or if you're going to go then towards Aerodrome, or if you're going to go out towards Raila Odinga Way, which doesn't look too bad at this moment. There's an option for you to use to get off what is already busy. It's also busy on Jogo Road today and we are looking at that going towards the roundabout at the City Stadium out towards Landis. Haile Selassie is where you see the most of that jam-packed action. Coming off of Thika Superhighway, it looks pretty good. I don't think we're going to have a problem coming out of Westlands, at least not for now. James Gishuru looks pretty good getting out towards Waiyaki Way. You should be all right getting into the city. Let's look at North Airport Road spilling on from Mombasa Road itself out towards Outer Ring. It's free and clear. Folks have made a bolt for the city this morning and so we don't have much traffic now. We will see this build up later, however. Talk to us through the morning and let's know what's going on in your neck of the woods and try to keep things moving this Monday. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
The only way to start your day is 6:08, the 1st of August. Welcome to this new month. And that's how we started off with a bang. 8 days. Are we counting today? And not the 9th, 7 days to the general election. And it's an opportunity then for you to say who you want to be in the driver's seat at whatever level around the country. Welcome to Monday. It's good to be here, alive and kicking. Things are thumping and we're starting the week off in good stead. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Ndu here with you. CT, I can see him, what's the word I want to use? Bouncing, trouncing in, something like that. Sorry?
Sauntering.
That's the word I was actually looking for. Sauntering. Thank you. Now, you with your saunter, how are you this morning?
My saunter and I are fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
You had a good weekend?
This school? No, I didn't.
No? Oh, wow. Why?
My arthritis.
It's doing a thing?
Oh, man, did it do a thing.
The whole weekend?
No. It normally starts it works in installments. The first installment was on Saturday.
Uh-huh.
Then Sunday, full blown. Today, better. But my fingers are still comme ci, comme ça.
C'est comme ci, comme ça. Désolé. You'll be okay, CT. But I'm glad you're here. We're in the very warm presence of a guest host for this hour. It's somebody you all know. It's great to have her here with us. Laura Walubengo, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am very bright this morning, surprisingly so.
No more practice or no?
It's. I feel like it's going to be a very lovely day today.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a brand new month. We've all been waiting for August 9th, I think. I mean, the campaigns have been going on for quite a while, so... yeah, we're looking forward to see what this month holds.
Good to have you here. What have you been up to? I mean, it's been a minute since we heard your voice.
Yeah, it's been about 5 minutes. If a minute is a year, I think. Okay, so I work now with CGTN Africa. After I left Capital FM, I went to MultiChoice Kenya. I was there for about 4 years. I returned to Capital for a very short stint before joining CGTN. So that's where I am now. We tell a lot of stories about Africa and just basically the good stories. Yeah.
CTDN.
CGTN.
And those are?
China Global Television Network.
Right.
There we go.
Right. Good.
Well, it's good to have you, here. It's good to hear your voice again. I mean, the household is definitely one of the adjectives we use to describe. So it's good to have you behind the mic once again, and look at CT every time you can. All right.
If looks could kill.
No,
Welcome.
This is a look of puzzlement. My name is just being mentioned willy-nilly.
No, I'm just using it for equipment purposes only, So if she looks at you, then we can make sure that the camera is, catching her
I'm being used
at all
as
times.
equipment. You heard that.
All right, folks. A busy morning today, that's for sure. Quite a number of conversations to reflect today. We're going to look at what's happening with COVID in just a minute. But, to let you know what's in store, looking at the race towards, 2022 at 7 o'clock, Senator Isaac Mora will be with us here in the studio, and we'll be looking at, so those undecided, what's going to get you guys to decide, those undecided, who is really going to be able to take in those last votes. 8 o'clock, we'll have a mirror, more or less, countdown to the election with Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, who is one of the senatorial aspirants for Nairobi. So she'll be with us here at 8. And at 9 o'clock, a twin female communications strategy conversation about who's going to knock it out of the park with two communication strategists, and they'll be talking with us about who is probably going to, win according to them. So those conversations, it's Political Monday, having an opportunity to look at what's going on with that. Before we get into things, however, let's take a look at what's going on with COVID. Still some numbers making the rounds around the country and indeed around the world. Let's look at what's going on in Kenya. Ministry of Health tells us 23 new cases from a sample size of 1,962. That's a very low positivity rate. It's a good thing. So we're looking at keep the numbers below 5%, 1.2%, recoveries of 80, 0 recorded deaths, which is a good thing. If we're looking at the total number of cases around the country to date, 337,599. And if we look at global figures, 582,173,485. 6.5, just under 6.5 million deaths around the country. And if we're looking at one of the stories making COVID headlines, U.S. President Joe Biden tests positive for COVID again after a rebound infection. He was thought to be doing better. His symptoms were not so severe, but he's done another test and they've said no. So now they've taken a little bit more in terms of measures to keep him isolated. And so they've said that after he first contracted the disease on the 21st of July, he was revealed to be experiencing mild symptoms. Saturday, he was not experiencing symptoms, but would isolate for the safety of everyone around him, is what they said. He had tested negative for the virus 4 times between Tuesday and Friday last week. And then Saturday, he tested positive once again. And so they do not know what's going to come out of this, but the suggestion is that he remains isolated for the next fortnight. So we'll wait and see what that looks like. All right, that's what it's looking like for COVID. Getting into some of those conversations and then looking into the papers. But we'll take a look at weather right now and see what's happening in the skies, and then come back and say hello to you, and then kick things off with Kenya's biggest conversation.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return it and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us to assert our will.
When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 15. It's cloudy at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 22, lows of 14 today, and at 13 and cloudy into Nyeri. We'll see highs of 20 and 19 will be the high in Eldoret, where it's mostly cloudy currently at 14. 21 and light rain in Mombasa, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 28 as well in a rainy Malindi currently at 22. It's 17 degrees and clear in Kisumu, highs of 25, and we'll see highs of 24 in a cloudy Kakamega at 15. Looking into Kampala, it's partly cloudy at 19, highs of 25 today, and we'll see highs of 29 in a partly cloudy Dar es Salaam currently at 29 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 18, and we'll see highs of 28 in a rainy Lagos currently at 24. It's clear in Kinshasa at 19, it'll go to highs of 29 today. Monday afternoon is sunny in Beijing, it's 32, it'll go to highs of 34 and lows of 25, while Paris is cloudy at 20, we'll see highs of 28 and 25 will be the high in a cloudy London currently at 18. It's 15 degrees, at 26 degrees and cloudy in New York. Still Sunday night. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 28 and lows of 21.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
18 minutes after 6 o'clock, and see all of you guys already
94.4 Spice
FM up Facebook and YouTube. Wherever you're tuned in around the country, you can't get us on your radio, you can definitely get us online. Good morning and Karibu Sana. Saying hello to you this morning. Killian Chondo says, Laura, happy to see you in radio live. The first time I said I had to meet, so I guess you can meet now here online. Your eloquency was so good. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Collins Kipsat says, good morning, tuned in. Happy new month, team. Indeed, following in from Eldoret. Mope says he's tuned in from Mwega in Nyeri County. And Mark Me present from Kimilili, and that's where Amos Freeman is. Good morning to you, CT. Mwange Joroge says, good morning, live, tuned in from Mombasa. Good morning, guys, tuned in from Kwale County. Indeed, praying for good blessings this week. Good morning and happy new month and new week. Mombasa is tuned in. That's where Robert Mbogo is. And from Nyamasaria, that's where Muga, another Muga, is tuned in from Bungoma East is where Richie is, and Dominic Nyabuto tuned in as well. Kapenguria is where Dennis is this morning, and Rehoboam says good morning and nice to hear Laura Walubenga again. Laura Walubengo again, nice to hear you. Good morning, it's a wonderful morning, nice to hear your voice. Listening in from Kora, excited to hear Eric. Yes, Eric will be back in a few days, still doing his walkabout, and he'll tell us about his travails when he's back.
Where is he?
Who knows? We'll see him when we see him. He likes to do that thing that he does, experience the country and come back and tell us about it, and we're here for it. Good to have you guys all in this morning as we get into conversations. All right, before we take a look at what's going on in the papers, let's hear today's proverb.
Good morning, boys and girls.
The proverb of the day is brought to you by Aquafresh Fresh Gel.
We are still in the DRC. Don't buy salt if you haven't licked it yet.
The salt?
Okay. Plenty of salt lookalikes.
Because it may not be salt.
No.
I reckon the people who trading the salt might not like, walking about and, dipping your finger and licking the stuff. But hey.
Look, have you seen people going to the market to buy fruit? How they manhandle the fruit?
Yeah.
So?
But how do you buy salt? I mean, how is it open? Is it like an open packet, or how do they sell salt in the market?
This is clearly a place where salt is actually measured in teaspoonfuls or spoonfuls. Yes, it's live. It isn't packaged, so you can determine. Just like for the longest time, some cooking oil was measured in. Well, you dip the thing into some container.
Actually, this is a question: can salt not be salty?
If salt loses its taste, of what use is it?
Touché, voila.
Sour.
Okay, sour.
Brush your teeth twice a day with Aquafresh Fresh Gel, the secret to long-lasting fresh breath,
it was
strong
a political
teeth, and healthy
weekend,
gums.
that's for sure. Other things still happening in the country, however, and we're looking at the papers today. Uhuru Kenyatta launches the Nairobi expressway. Folks had a bit of a minute when they thought, okay, so what's going to happen if the expressway is not? So I guess already some dependence on the expressway has been built. But during this time, when he was launching the expressway, as is covered by the Standard, President Kenyatta yesterday launched the Nairobi Expressway and the Eastern Bypass, where he told off the deputy over claims that he would harm him. So yes, the expressway was being launched, but it was not void. The ceremony was not void of issues. So just looking into that story. President Uhuru Kenyatta has scoffed at claims that he's plotting to harm Deputy President William Ruto and his running mate Rigathi Gachagua, condemning the pair for their anger. He had remained silent as Ruto and Gachagua insulted him for 3 years, he said. He said he had a right to support whomever he wanted for the presidency, adding that his issue with the United Democratic Alliance pair was their lies. When I respond to the lies you are telling Kenyans, don't spin it that I want to kill you. You have been insulting me for 3 years. Has anyone harmed you? Uhuru posed. The president said he had no time to go after those opposing him, much less now that he's almost retiring. There is no need to tell people that I want to kill you. Why would I plot to kill anyone at a time when I'm on my way out? That is the least of my worries. I had the power all this time. He was speaking when he commissioned the Eastern Bypass at Mahango in Embakasi, where he challenged Ruto to calm his temper and concentrate on wooing voters instead of hurling accusations and allegations. The president also called out politicians for insulting each other in public, urging Kenyans to maintain peace before, during, and after next week polls. Uhuru urged Kenyans to elect leaders who don't exhibit anger traits. Some of these people are very angry. Why are you angry? He's asking. Anytime they open their mouths, what comes out are insults. I would like to urge all of you Kenyans to vote for a leader who can manage their anger in the next polls. He drummed up support for his handshake partner's presidential bid, and he said, if you know what is right for Kenya, vote for Raila Odinga and Martha Karua. They have had your interests at heart. He reiterated that every Kenyan has the freedom to support a candidate of their choice, and he said in the end, it is the voter's choice. There is no need to insult each other. Yes, so expressway launched, and at the same time, warning sent out. So hey,
on what date was it launched again?
Yesterday.
Yes, what was the date yesterday?
The 31st of July.
Right.
2022.
I missed the date by a month, didn't I?
CT, you are a clairvoyant. You are, what's that other thing? Medicine man.
Soothsayer.
You predicted it.
He did.
No.
We were all saying, the expressway will be finished December. CT said June 2022. June. You people are making noise. June 2022.
I'm actually not a clairvoyant.
What are you?
I'm not a soothsayer.
Druid?
All you need to do is to live long enough to look at, it's a simple exercise. You look at the promises that are made by government and the length of time it takes to fulfill it. But this one, I didn't do that math. I'm on this road every single day. And I've been on this road for over 2.5 years, every single day. So I could see the progress. So when they said June, the maths I did was, okay, in the last 6 months they've done this. Is it possible for them to complete this? And I said, no, it's not possible. It's not possible at all. The thing is this, they could have easily said, we will open officially, you'll use this particular expressway by June, but we'll officially open it in what? This month is July, isn't it?
This month is August.
They could have.
Yeah.
My beef with the officials in charge of this particular road and with many government officials and many government agencies is their inability to tell the truth, just a simple truth. Somebody must spin a yarn, a really long one. And you're wondering, what do you think will happen if you tell us the truth?
There's always that thing about telling people what they want to hear. In this case, assuming that they want to hear the best possible version of whatever it is you're trying to do. I don't know. It makes no sense to me, actually.
Laura, which part of the country do you come from?
Bungoma.
Okay. Are there times when it doesn't rain?
Sorry?
Are there times when it doesn't rain in Bungoma?
Absolutely, yeah.
And people know it's not raining?
Yeah.
Now, of what use is telling people it's going to rain when they know full well it's not going to rain?
You're asking the wrong person.
It's a rhetorical question.
But we make rain. We make rain in Bungoma.
That's what I was going to say. These are the rainmakers, however.
Well, they're not the only ones who make rain. There are people further down, just after Kisumu, a place called Nyeri. There are people there who also claim to make rain. So, yes, rainmakers abound.
Indeed.
But clearly they've been out of business for a while, haven't they?
They've not been able to call
come to Nairobi
whomever they call
buy
on.
salt.
I think they came to Nairobi.
Come to Nairobi to buy salt and lick it as they go.
Salt being a key ingredient in the making of rain.
There you go. Actually thinking, talking about, you say you've been here long enough. One of the interesting stories I saw on the Standard today was it's the anniversary of the 1982 coup. Where were you at that time?
I had just graduated the year before from the university. Okay, my undergraduate course it was Kenyatta University College then, but the coup found me in Nairobi. Was it
like how was it? The only stories I ever hear about it from my mom.
Okay.
So
she just told me how old I am without actually asking me my age.
No.
All right. Now,
don't worry, Laura. It's
my dear niece, let me explain this to you. That coup occurred. It was odd and it was strange. People were simply going about their business as they normally do. I was actually in Nairobi because I'd come to play a rugby match I was a captain of Mombasa Sports Club. And we come to play, I think, I'm trying to remember what tournament it was, in Nairobi. And I'd gone back to Kenyatta to spend a night at my brother's place. He was still a student. My friend, it was one of the most terrifying things that you could ever encounter, because one moment you're all in one place, the next thing you have been told categorically no one moves. Then lorries start piling into the university.
Wow.
And people with red berets and some in plain clothes. People who had gone to the Gikomba market and bought some of these second-hand army outfits, coats and so forth, people ran to hide those things. You couldn't burn them in time. And I still remember one of the most interesting things was the fellow in the red beret walked towards us and said, fortunately, I'd carried my university card with me. I'd already left the university. One said, Lala Chini. Another one said, Tembea. No.
No way.
I saw the funniest thing. I mean, I was not supposed to laugh, but I had to smirk a bit.
To you?
No, people fell down on their bellies because these guys were armed. They cocked the gun, people fell on their bellies. Then when the other one said, Tembea, people started crawling.
Halfway between lying
trying to lie down. I mean, it was the craziest of things. But even crazier was how to get transport out of Nairobi.
Yeah.
It was the word is surreal.
My mom had gone to pick up my sister in Bungoma. from school, and my dad had traveled. So we're a big family. We're 11 kids. So all 10 of us were here in Nairobi, and she got stuck that way. So coming up, it was such a dramatic thing, and how they had to stop in Naivasha because buses couldn't travel past 6 p.m. So she's in Naivasha, and then this...
And all the children are in Nairobi.
Exactly. And that's when she told me, I know as a mother, nothing... You be afraid of nothing when it comes to your kids. And so when she got to Naivasha, somebody walked into the bus and was like, "Mutakufa nyinyi wote." So she did, like, it was just, everything was so dramatic at that time, and nobody could make heads or tails of it. But when she got home, we were all fine. Luckily, nothing happened.
Yeah, it's interesting because now you think of it. I mean, just looking at what would have happened in 1982 with a coup, and in terms of communication lines then having been broken down. But then you want to do a catapult into 2002, 40 years later, and you say, should there have been a catastrophe of whatever, level, what would you do? You'd pick up your phone, isn't it?
Yeah.
And talk to your neighbor and say, look, my kids are in the house, or talk to whomever. My kids are in the house, keep an eye on them until I'm able to get out of here, or communicate with this person to send me this so that I can move. So you can imagine I'm trying to imagine the terror, and I'm just looking at it from a social point of view. I'm not even looking at it from a failed government point of view, but from a social point of view, what madness would have been going on in people's minds, where 1 minute you're in your university dorm seeing your brother, or you're going to pick up your child from school, and then the country shuts down. And doesn't shut down because of natural catastrophe, shuts down because, there's a threat in the streets.
Yeah.
But then I also should mention a former college mate of mine was also getting married on that same day.
Whoa.
The day before, the day the thing occurred. So I was there for 2 reasons. Now imagine, myself and 3 other siblings were in Nairobi.
Yeah.
My parents were in Mombasa. Can you imagine the panic they were in? 4 of your children are actually in that city. You can't call nothing.
Yeah.
So all you do is pray. And then with the buses, you boarded a bus. Every time you were stopped, you wondered, because you'd seen people with guns.
Yeah.
But what we then realized, of course, with hindsight, they also wanted to know what was happening.
They didn't
sure.
know. They didn't know.
When we got to Jomvu,
yeah. I don't know where that is, but okay.
Mombasa. Sorry, forgive me. I'm actually picturing it in my mind.
You were there, yeah.
I was told to continue. My brother, I think my sisters, they remained.
Yeah.
And they were taken to the police station. Now, they were to tell us, nothing happened. I went home and told my parents, the police stopped us and these guys were taken off.
Yeah.
My father said, it's okay. Stay in Mombasa, fine. We'll sort it out. All that happened was they were taken to the police station. The policemen wanted to know what was happening in Nairobi. Again. But they weren't alone. They were the university students.
Yeah.
But it's something that is, when you mention it,
Yeah.
I'm talking because the memories are now coming back.
They're not coming back.
It was a really terrible day.
And actually, I remember my mom tried to make a phone call to find out if things are okay in the house. And the only phones that were working were in the police station. And they were like, Mama, tunangojea orders, you cannot touch this phone.
Wow. 40 years and the 1982 coup then being remembered today. Taking a look at the papers today on Kenya's biggest conversation. It's 26 minutes to 7 o'clock. We come back and look at more right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel Nkericho, good morning.
Salama sana, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani? Anaitwa Silvanus Maritim hapa ni Ainamoi.
Silvanus Maritim Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, it's piled up on Langata this morning and getting to that roundabout as you head out towards the cities. As you see most of the traffic today, also looking at traffic then having increased quite some on the Thika Superhighway, going well past Survey out towards that Outer Ring Junction and beyond that well into Kiambu County this morning. So it looks like it's going to be crazy already. There's traffic building up on Kiambu Road as well as you go into the city, getting towards that Muthaiga Square and then out towards the Pangani Underpass. Taking a look at that, it's not at crazy proportions just yet, but likely to do so this Monday morning. Coming off Wayaki Way, it's all right, at least for now. Into the CBDs where you see most of the action today. Mombasa Road doesn't look too bad. In and outbound traffic is flowing very smoothly, so that's all right. Jogo Road started busy as usual. It will be that way for a couple of hours, so we'll keep an eye on things this morning and hopefully they'll keep moving. Let us know what's going on Monday where you are. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life.
Yolanda Mulo and DJ Absolute. When the gang is together, you know it's
Sugar and Spice.
Great vibes, conversations, a lot of humor. I like to say we don't give an F, we give 3 Fs.
You and I are in this relationship, so it is me to tell you who we are.
When you ask a chick, how many guys have you been with? She's like, including you. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock. If I were you, I'd tune in to Spice FM 94.4.
I want you on my team.
So does everybody else.
Yeah.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
All right, 22 minutes to 7 o'clock. Still taking a look at the papers. Not to forget Standard e-paper, epaper.standardmedia.co.ke. Take a look at what's going on at the click of a button, and it shouldn't be an issue at a very affordable price on a daily. City, what do you have?
You know, there are things we were talking about rainmakers who come from Laura's neck of the woods, okay? And some lower down the neck of the woods near Kisumu town. But the thing that we forget is that rain is rain because it rains water, okay? We take water for granted if you come in a place where there are rivers, people rain. Now, there are parts of this country that water is something that is almost mythical because it is rarely seen, but even more so, there are places in this country that have never seen piped water in 60 years until 2014. I just remember the name of Frank Mushungu wrote in the Star about water coming to where? Isiolo for the first time. First time ever not. It had been there before. Piped water, never seen.
And this is 2014.
Wrote the article. A place called Badana. Now, we are in 2022. Water reached a place called Merti Sub-County in Isiolo. 60 years since independence, they're seeing piped water for the first time in their lives. So anytime people want to pitch a fit and complain and wallow in their own misery and talk about, we only get water through Bowsers, please consider the place. Bowser is a different story because for Bowser to exist, there must be a regular source of plenty of clean water. Now, there are people in this country who have to trek kilometers upon kilometers to get their water. It's just the normal. Now, the question that comes to my mind, well, two things. First of all, thank you so much that these people now have water. Must it take 60 years?
I think we take a lot of we tolerate a lot of mediocrity for lack of a better word, but there's something like that should just be, it's a what's it called, food, water, shelter. It's a basic need.
It is a basic need,
and it shouldn't be something that we congratulate you for giving me water after 60 years of independence.
You know what the finger is pointed at? The members of parliament. And right now, in the last 10 years, the governor. How on earth? But the earth here and how it's on it is this. You know, if people are used to doing things in this way, it becomes normal.
They'll just keep doing it as yes.
The human mind has this capacity to just adjust, adapt, and then it figures it's the way of life. Jerrycans came along, you then have a donkey filled with enough water for the day.
In the cart,
But that shouldn't be the case.
No, it really shouldn't be.
It should not.
And this is the thing. I think that's the perfect word. Mediocrity, maybe even less than that, because a road that should be, a proper road for use, and then somebody comes and grades the road, and they say, okay, yeah, at least we have a road that we can move on. But that's not the standard that it should be. You have homes with taps, and water doesn't come from those taps. You have the water bowsers coming into. So you can imagine if that's happening, then what's happening in the rural areas. And this is what is going on. And that's the thing. And then when somebody comes and does the bare minimum, for which you expect of them a higher standard, they do the bare minimum, and then we applaud them and congratulate them. And it should be that this should not be the case.
You know, two things. Remember, there's a time when every time there's a new leader and they promise to sink boreholes. And so it became a thing. But now, with most of the apartments that are coming up, the gated communities, a borehole is it's just one of the things that they
it's like
oh,
a
we're
DSQ.
So it's sort of
borehole.
it sort of made it look so ordinary for you to have this borehole, and so I think they need a new play.
Absolutely.
Borehole work.
You know, there's a word here that I came across in my reading. It's called an aquifer. Come across it?
Yeah, I think so.
The fact that it doesn't rain doesn't mean there is no water in that landscape. It just happens to be underground. Now, modern technology, using satellite, you can tell, given the topography of the place, you can tell what's underneath the earth. Just because of those formations. Some of those places that we refer to as arid and semi-arid have huge reserves of water underground. The wonder is why it is that these have never been tapped. 60 years.
Yeah.
After we got independence, 60.
Like when they were looking for oil in Turkana, then they bumped into this water, remember?
You see, they are the ones who bumped in the water. The water knew it was there all along.
They could have found it. The water did.
Yeah, after a year,
waiting
drought,
to be
we're
discovered.
dying. And then there we go with the water.
Okay. All right. So schools will be closed this week to prepare for elections, rather to pave way for elections. We saw the announcement from Interior CS Makoha yesterday. Matiang'i yesterday.
Yes.
And he said that, close schools by the 6th of August to allow for elections which are on the 9th. Learners in all schools will take a week break from Friday to pave way for the general election slated for Tuesday next week, but more disruptions could follow. Ministry of Education made provision for the long half-term break in the academic calendar, since most public schools are used as polling stations and tallying centres. The timing of the elections is tricky since they have come in the middle of the school term, unlike before when learners were usually on holiday. So it was during that long August holiday. But remember, we are in a year now where things have been compounded because of COVID. And this was now the last stretch, the last couple of months until we go back into regular learning in January. All right. There's also the possibility of further disruption to the academic calendar depending on the outcome of the presidential election. And so that is what is being looked into. The school term has only 10 weeks and is meant to end on the 16th of September. The third and last term of the crash program is scheduled to run from September 26th to November 25th, after which national examinations will commence. However, all these plans are dependent on a series of events that might be triggered by next Tuesday's elections. Recent opinion polls have shown the top two candidates, Raila Odinga and William Ruto, are neck to neck in the race, with both scoring below 50%. This raises the possibility of a runoff. So, we'll be having that conversation after 7 o'clock to ask ourselves, okay, so who is going in which direction? But here we are at almost. So I think the pundits and the, soothsayers, political soothsayers, probably giving an idea that there may be further disruptions. And The IEBC says they will have to conduct a repeat election after 90 days if the possibility of a runoff becomes a reality. This could be in early November when learners in grade 6, standard 8 and form 4 will be preparing for the national examinations. Such a scenario would require another break to allow for the elections. It would also see the national examinations rescheduled. So it's putting it out there in terms of a possibility, which is a good thing to consider in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the hope is, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that everything will go well and that you will have, your new administration in place from the 15th when, the announcements are likely to be made. I mean, I'm sorry, but children, oftentimes when you look at these delays because of COVID. We talked about what the tailspin that the country was thrown into, etc., etc. But very rarely did we look at the burden that was then on the learners in terms of the shorter periods that they would be in school, the pressure on them to get in all this information in a much shorter time. And here we are having a conversation again about the possibility of other disruptions to the school year, which was already 3 months shorter than, it normally would have been.
I actually don't even know what happens in school anymore. You just go with the flow.
I mean,
when the school tells you, okay, we're going to close on this day, like, okay, fine. And then we open on this day, okay, fine.
Okay, we'll be back.
There's nothing you can do. It's very strange times, actually.
Really?
But I wish maybe they should have just kept it, have the plan, but you don't necessarily have to say that this is what is going to happen if there's a disruption. If something happens, then you're prepared. But I think planting the seed sometimes it can be a bit irresponsible.
Sure, I think it sets folks off on anxious levels. So folks are just like, okay, so what if something happens? Will something happen? Have a plan in place, yes. Maybe not announce it.
The decision-making process of the higher-ups, I think that process is what needs soothsayers. People who can actually decipher this thing for you and explain to you what is really going on. Because if you just take in what is said you'll end up being completely confused. Because you'll be wondering, so what did they just say? Yeah. And what did they just mean? And how exactly is this supposed to pan out? You'll be hard-pressed to actually figure all these things out. It's not as easy as it sounds. I'm looking at an article in the Business Daily, the sort of article that you look at and you say, okay, this is an interesting one. There's a small issue of taxes. There's an even smaller issue of the large number of Kenyans who pay taxes, but what isn't spoken of, and if it is, it's only in whispers, is a small percentage of people in this country who actually own perhaps 90% of what we call our wealth, and businesses. Now, the Business Daily headline, this one is glaring. 90% of firms did not pay corporate tax.
What?
Let me read it again. 90% of firms did not pay corporate tax.
When?
The year ending June 2022. Okay, no. There's a lot more to this story than just that. Because on the face of it, it's like 10% paid. But remember, there are, just so that you understand, 759,164 firms registered for corporate tax in the country. Registered. Those who have paid are 84,428.
Around about 10%, yeah.
Around about 11%.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, some of these firms have, now, the maths get more interesting. Around 65% of these people have actually filed returns, meaning they've said 66.39% returns. Here we are. But then, if I turn the page and read what the page says on the other side, it tells us that only 16% of those 66 paid corporate tax. Now, there are companies that have been registered, but they haven't really done any business. Some which, because of COVID, now COVID really explains everything. Because of COVID, things didn't quite work out the way they had planned, so blah, 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 blah. Now, the question that one asks is, you see, the last time such a story hit the headlines, it was internationally, when in the US, there was a complaint that people were avoiding paying tax, meaning they found legal loopholes that enable them not to pay tax.
Right.
So, in this country, it looks like we are going to deal with the same issue, but you cannot tell me that only 10% of all the people who are doing this business in this country have paid their taxes or are able to. That does not ring true by any stretch of anyone's imagination.
And what's the reasoning? I mean, we're looking at certain things, inability to, or we're talking about evasion or avoidance.
You file you file nil return, meaning you file that you have not made money, so you cannot pay tax.
Yeah, business was the pit for a lot of people.
Yes, it was. But then we have to ask this question: can KRA find a way of determining whether these things are actually true? If there's one government institution that is all over the country, it is KRA. They're everywhere.
But they never, I don't think they ever look back unless they're looking at a specific case. They never go back to see, okay, what is the real story here? What they try and do is say, okay, I guess people are fooling around, so we're going to see what to do tomorrow. I think there's something they've just introduced for businesses, so you actually pay your tax before you even get paid. And I don't know if that's the solution, but I feel like as far as investigations go, that's how they operate.
The thing is, KRA is people by very intelligent, very well informed, very well educated people. And I'm sure they have a fairly clear idea. And this issue that we're now discussing, I'm sure they've discussed it at even greater depth. But that's not my concern. My concern are the optics.
Yeah, how does this look?
I'm looking at this and I'm wondering, okay, so if you got it to even just 20%, what would we have? Remember, the other day, we surpassed target that KRA had set. With Leon.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, am I to assume that this arises from the percentages that I've just read? So if you double it, what then will we do? But even more importantly, how do you ensure that businesses actually do what they're supposed to do? The enabling environment, yes, understandable, but ensuring the enabling environment makes it positive for people to produce more. Why this story really tickled me was it shows me and tells me that if all these things, these particular ducks are in a particular row, we're actually able to do business that will enable KRA to collect enough money to actually run our business without borrowing money from God knows who else and who else.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the sense that I get from this story.
Very possible. That the country can actually run itself.
Yes, it can.
It can. Laura, what else are you looking at?
Well, I was looking at this story on the Matatu industry, drifting back to bad days before Mishuki rules. It's actually quite interesting, scary, I can imagine if you were in there. But it says, a recent incident in Nairobi where the door of a Matatu fell as a vehicle made its way out of town with passengers on board has rekindled a debate on Mishuki rules that were aimed at enhancing safety. The passengers aboard the Matatu, which plies between city centre and Kileleshwa, had to alight along Latema Road and find another vehicle, so that the faulty vehicle is taken to a garage. So can you imagine sitting in a car and then the door just falls off? I mean, the Mishuki rules said that you needed to have a seat belt. There needs to be even a bin in the Matatu to I mean, people who eat bananas in the Matatu like I had this morning.
Yeah.
So you, like, I mean, I don't know. Matatus are very scary. Like, when you see one on the road, you just try and avoid it as much as possible. So that's what I was reading today. And I think we had a very interesting conversation on Twitter some time back on whether the carnage that we see on the roads is because of a design flaw in the way the road is built, or whether it's just bad habits.
So I think we have a conversation of it, and I think the point where we got to is, it's a combination of factors. We can't run away from the fact that design flaws will definitely arrive, bring about more accidents. But at the same time, also looking at what Mishuki was able to install just by saying enough of this on the roads.
Yeah.
But then it was clearly. And, CT always gives the example that once he said this, Kenyans were ready to walk, for example, because we can't run away from the fact that the majority of transport then that is used in this country is public transport.
Yeah.
The majority of people are using public transport. And so, look, if we're going to put people in a dangerous situation on a daily basis, where people are not, following the rules, people are doing whatever they want, then it needed that restructure. And it happened for some good years, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
That this industry seemed to have been streamlined, that people were doing what they were supposed to be doing, obeying the rules, but then that seems to have been chucked out the window now. And there's, other priorities than making sure that people who, in the majority, are riding these vehicles on a daily basis.
The vast majority of Kenyans are actually law-abiding. When you see them not being law-abiding, I would argue, is that what they're doing is looking after number one. They are trying to take measures or put into place measures that will guarantee them either safety or well-being, or will just enable them to get along. So they compromise to get along. But when an opportunity is provided to do what is right, they will do right. And they'll stick by it. The vast, not majority, vast majority. The thing that Kenyans have is this instinct to survive. You look and ask, what do I need to do in order not to raise too much dust, in order not to place myself too much in the limelight? That position is what they will take. And they'll find and they'll adjust. It is the reason why you find, for instance, even with the inflation that we now have, with the cost of everything rising, what do you think Kenyans are doing? They're adjusting. The problem is, a point will be arrived at if no change is made, where they will not be able to adjust.
Yeah, and that's when now folks have been pushed to the wall, really, and you say, okay, so, Manuel, let's just be out here, because what are we then supposed to do? What are folks supposed to do?
But going back to this story, one very impressive paragraph is that under Mishuki rules, all Matatus and buses were required to install speed governors and safety belts, carry a specified number of passengers, and operate on clearly defined routes. All drivers and conductors were expected to be disciplined and to have a good conduct certificate. Operators were to wear uniforms and display badges at all times. I mean, it seems like a fairy tale now, but it did happen. So there's little things like that, like even coming here, the beautiful road, no lights. So we adjust, and you put your light on full beam, and I think at some point we need to, I don't know how I'm going to look at that, but
that's interesting. All right, one last story before we come to the top of the hour. New power tariffs plan to give users control of bills. All right, so I guess kind of like you pay for what you use? The Energy Ministry plans to introduce multiple electricity tariffs, offers which will give consumers bigger control over their power bills as part of a proposed reform aimed at encouraging usage when supplies are cheapest. A white paper newly published by the ministry proposes to introduce smart tariffs and meters to enable consumers to track when electricity prices are at their cheapest and then plan your usage around that. Smart tariffs will enable consumers to have more control, choice and flexibility over their energy use depending on temporal needs, dependent on temporal urgency, shifts in market price, and reflect demand and supply dynamics. In this arrangement, there will be multiple electricity rates depending on the time of day to enable consumers to shift their consumption to peak times of the day when electricity is cheapest. The power supplier can, for example, price electricity every 30 minutes over 24 hours of a day. Traditionally, electricity has been priced at a single unit rate for consumers in Kenya. In addition, consumers are often billed based on estimate readings and standardized profiles, meaning that the power supplier guesses how much one has consumed. So it's kind of like, okay, so probably around this amount. So what they're saying is that we're going to let you basically say, at what time will you consume the most? When there are more people in the house kind of thing, then can we say that is what exactly you will be billed for? It'll be interesting because, then you now have control over basically how much you pay for the power that you use.
Sounds like homework.
I know, it just seems to be a bit multiplying. So we pull it out. I mean, I don't know how it's used in a lot of markets. We know this. I guess it just comes as part of what you do. But it'll be interesting to see and we'd like to go into more detail and see how that will be done. So, concept is already in use. Let's see if it'll actually be brought in here and how they'll go about that. We're coming around to 7 o'clock. Conversations continue. We'll be looking at more stories and also hear from you at 7 through to 8 o'clock. For now, it's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Victor from Settle. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has assured the media of unlimited access to polling stations countrywide when the nation goes to the polls on 9th of August. IEBC Chairperson of Chebukati says a memorandum of understanding between the Electoral Board and the media means members of the fourth estate will be able to report on events in all the voting stations countrywide in real time. Chebukati gave the assurance at the Bomas of Kenya during the launch of media and call centers that will give stakeholders real-time information about the elections. The two facilities are hosted at the Bomas of Kenya, which is the IEBC Operations Nav Center for the 2022 elections. Now, the tussle between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto over the 2022 succession politics has continued to unfold, with the head of state now saying he has no intention of killing his deputy or other leaders making such claims. Speaking during the commissioning of Nairobi expressway, President Kenyatta stated that for the last 3 years, Ruto and allies have been on a spree to mudslinging and insult him while he remained silent.
Kuna haja ya matusi, kuna haja ya kuingilia watu. Nikikujibu kwa sababu umesema mambo ya uongo, kuna haja ya kuambia watu nataka kuua. Si mumenitusi karibu miaka 3. Kuna mtu amewaguza. Hiyo miaka 3 nimekuwa kwa kiti. Si nilikuwa na uwezo. Sasa wakati naenda kupatiana serikali na sina uwezo, ndio niko na time ya kukutafuta. Piga story yako, uza sera zako, wachana na mimi. Mimi nafanya kazi yangu, nimalize. Nyinyi muende muombe kura. Wananchi wakiwapatia sawa, wakiwanyima, twende nyumbani pamoja. Shida iko wapi? Si dunia itaendelea.
President Kenyatta pointed out that there is no need for insulting, urging Kenyans to maintain peace during this period.
As you all know, in a week's time, we will be exercising our constitutional right to choose a new administration. I want to urge all of us to maintain peace during the remaining campaign period and on and after the date of the election. Kuna haja ya matusi jameni. Kila mtu, including myself, ako na uhuru wa kupigia debe yoyote ambaye anataka. Kwa hivyo, unapigia huyu, mwingine anampigia huyu, mwingine anapigia huyu. Uamuzi utakuwa wa wananchi.
And Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party presidential running mate Martha Karua has assured their opponents in Kenya Council that their government will protect them if they ascend to power come August 2nd. The campaign to Nandi County, the National Rainbow Coalition Kenya party leader has stated that the government will strictly execute its mandate as stated by the Constitution.
Nia yetu ni kuhudumia Wakenya wote kwa njia ya usawa, kuona ya kwamba sheria zetu zimetumika kwa kila Mkenya kwa njia sawa. Kwa hao wapinzani wetu tunawachukua kama ndugu zetu, sababu wao ni Wakenya kama sisi. Tunawaambia tukishinda, sababu tunaona dalili na Mungu yuko mbele, tutawachunga kama Wakenya wengine, lakini tunaonya viongozi wote tuwe waangalifu na matamshi yetu isiwe ni ya kupotosha Wakenya.
And Deputy President William Ruto has vowed to lower the prices of farming inputs if elected in the August 9th general election. Speaking while on the campaign trail in Nandi County in part of western Kenya, Ruto said he would lower fertilizer prices from 6,000 shillings to 2,500. Ruto further asked the president to allow administrators do their job as per the law.
Namuuliza rais, jamani, tafadhali, my friend, umetutesa ya kutosha, wacha itoshe. Si ni kweli? Si huyu jamaa ametutesa, ametuangaisha. Sasa saa hizi ako na njama ya kutumia machifu ati kuvuruga uchaguzi. Sisi tunaambia machifu, wale ambao mnaitwa katika mikutano, mnalazimishwa ati muende muandike sijui watu 20-30 katika kila polling station, ati ili kwa uchaguzi wavuruge uchaguzi wa taifa letu la Kenya. Tunawaambia machiefs, please do not participate in those games. Wacha watu wa Azimio wapange watu yao, sisi tutapanga watu yetu, tukutane na wao kwa debe, wa Kenya hawa waamue.
This is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
All right, a few minutes after 7 o'clock. And Langata Road is packed, getting into the city. Really crazy traffic. Coming off from Gong Road as well, we're seeing quite some. And it's tailing back all the way to that junction, heading out further into Ngong Town. So that is madness this morning. Lunga Lunga is doing something, not quite sure why, but in and outbound traffic is crazy. Jogo Road also, that started pretty early, and we're seeing traffic going out towards Kamkunji. And it's likely to pick up even further towards 7:30, going out towards 8 o'clock. So it looks like a jam-packed morning already. Coming off of Thika Superhighway, traffic is already at crazy status, bumper to bumper, all the way past that outer ring junction, well into Kiambu County. And we're looking at Kiambu Road itself. In and outbound traffic is bumper to bumper as well. Limuru Road is going to follow in fine form, and that's for sure. In and outbound traffic has already started to trickle in. Coming off Waiyaki Way, not too bad, but if it does get so, use the Red Hill Link Road to get out of the city and then find your way back in. Outer Ring looks like it's going to do a thing in a short while. Juja Road trying to connect with Outer Ring. Kangunda Road doing the same as well. And Manyanja Road also trying to touch on Outer Ring, getting out towards the city via way of the Thika Superhighway. Crazy has begun. It's Monday after all. Let's know what's going on where you are. Talk to us, SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned
Indeed,
journalist,
it is
news
7
hound,
minutes
a
after
man
7
who
o'clock
believes
on
in
this
punching
first day
up,
of
not
August. Happy new month, folks, and welcome to this side of things. We are starting off the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. Where are you tuned in around the country? We can see you. Asante Sana for joining us. Our live streams are up on YouTube and Facebook this morning. CT Moga Nduoko, and our guest host for today, Laura Walubengo, in with you today. And as we are reflecting conversations that are happening around the country, Karibuni Sana, and thanks for joining us. We're kicking off this hour with today's proverb.
Good morning, boys and girls.
The proverb of the day is brought to you by Aquafresh Fresh Gel.
Right. Don't buy salt if you haven't licked it yet. The proof of the salt is in the licking.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The proof of the salt is in the licking. Don't lick salt if you haven't bought it yet. Test it out.
Well, don't buy it actually. The licking is now the path to which you may now determine whether you're going to buy it or not.
Yep. All right. There you go.
Brush your teeth twice a day with Aquafresh Fresh Gel, the secret to long-lasting fresh breath, strong teeth, and healthy gums.
All right, so we saw quite a number of things said over the weekend. Between Thursday and Sunday, it's like 3 years, but like they say, one day in politics is like 1,000 years, again, going biblical. We've seen quite a number of things being said. Again, this tiff by the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the deputy president on different platforms. Basically, now it seems as though it's a gloves-off fight, bare knuckle, and it doesn't matter what is being said, it's being said. And the feelings, the emotions, we can say can be politicking, but I think it's gone a little bit more than that now, whereby we've heard the jabs, we've seen them, and then we heard the reply from the president yesterday where he said, look, well, I mean, he said a number of things. I mean, we'll go over some of those clips, but just listening to what the deputy president said, basically, leave me alone, said, allow me to do this thing. I supported you. It's really my turn. We have seen this bare knuckle, gloves off politicking, and it's a little bit more than that. Let's hear what the Deputy President said, and then we can...
Na mimi nataka nimwambie rais, wacha kuniletea maneno my friend. Wewe sukuma candidate yako bwana kitendawili. Unaniongelea nini? Sijui kama tunaelewana. Mr. President, please stop talking about me. Talk about your candidate. Tunaelewana? Wachana na William Ruto. I supported you when you needed a man to support you. If you do not want to support me, leave me alone. Na mimi nataka nimwambie rafiki yangu rais, hata kama umenifanya yale yote umenifanya, mimi ni mtu muungwana, mimi ni mtu Mkristo, mimi sitakuwa na maneno na wewe. Nitahakikisha kwamba umeenda nyumbani polepole na upumzike na uendelee na maisha yako.
Okay. Didn't sound like it was, just a greeting. He was clear about what he felt. And let's hear what President Uhuru Kenyatta said in response to that just yesterday.
Umenitusi karibu miaka 3, kuna mtu amewaguza. Hiyo miaka 3 nimekuwa kwa kiti, sindilikuwa na uwezo. Sasa wakati naenda kupatiana serikali na sina uwezo, ndio niko na time ya kukutafuta. Piga story yako, uza sera zako, wachana na mimi. Mimi nafanya kazi yangu, nimalize. Nyinyi muende muombe kura. Wananchi wakiwapatia sawa, wakiwanyima, twende nyumbani pamoja.
This is a very different picture from what we saw just about, 9 years ago, when they came together as brothers, donning the same suits and, holding hands
hugging,
and shit, all
laughing.
sorts of brotherly camaraderie, telling the country that, it's us. But it couldn't be any more different now from what we see today. And the question is, one of these individuals is running to be president of the country. One of these individuals is coming and asking Kenyans to vote for him once again. Does this tiff, which is clearly in the public eye, dock him some points, or does it, give him some? Does it give President William Ruto, or Deputy President William Ruto, brownie points? Does it secure his position in this election, or does it take away because he's actually duking it out in public politically with the president? Does it make things harder or easier for him when we see this tiff now in the public eye?
Are you asking me?
Well, I mean, here we are. Kenyans at large as well.
I think looking at the trajectory of what has been said in different platforms when they go around the country, it's almost like most of the issues, the promises that they make, the campaign promises, they're sort of, they don't have much more to say. And so to keep it interesting, these tiffs seem, they get people talking. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it's working in his favor. I think both of them, it comes across as a bit petty, but then at the same time, it is important for you if somebody, it's like rap music sort of, somebody says something, you need to respond. Yeah, it's just a bit too personal. And as I saw during the debate, the presidential debate, that was sort of the fighting line. Yeah, attacking Uhuru, and so it moved away from the issues that we're facing. And I mean, although that happened, it was also important for the questions to be asked, because we never really get to ask these questions. We take whatever we're told at face value. So I wouldn't think it's helping.
The logic that is required to understand our politics is a completely different discipline from the logic you use in everyday life. And that logic is propagated and determined by the people who are in politics. Often when you listen to what politicians say, what you probably ought to listen to more is what they're not telling you. How do people come to an understanding and an agreement so that you win an election together? And then, not very long after that, what is this thing that happens so that one unified front that we saw for the longest time now begins to break down? A lot has been said about the handshake, as though it's the one which broke it down. But if you understand politics, you know that was a culmination. It is not what caused the breakup. The breakup was in the making. And that particular position was arrived at. And usually the things that are not in the public glare, the details of what actually happened and the decisions that were made to take one step to the next, one step to the next. If you look at the players who are at the forefront of our politics right now, they've been at this thing for quite some time now, with the exception of Dr. Wajakoya. Okay? And Mwaura has been at it before.
He's taken a
Mwaura has been at it before. Wahiga has been at it before. But perhaps the media didn't give him the prominence he may have needed to show that he has been there. But he's been at it before. Now, if you look at the merry-go-round and the musical chairs that these people play, so-and-so was in this party, left, went to this other party, so-and-so was in this party, left, there will be similarities in these people in terms of their politics, in terms of what they have done. Now, what politicians then do in trying to drum up support for themselves is they will paint the most favorable picture they can come up with about themselves. And if there's anything daunting or anything negative, that will be attacked. The mention of it alone will raise so much heat unless you're thoroughly... This one doesn't require thick skin. It requires armor plating. You will not be able to withstand the heat. Now, what we're seeing now and what is playing out is not that these people fell out. No. It is, what do you do at this 11th hour? What do you say that you think you haven't said that will paint a picture that you think will sell your candidate? That's really what's happening here. Because at the end of the day, if you go down memory lane, who started what and when? Who started personalizing issues and when? It's in the public domain. It's something that anybody can look at and they can see. Who started campaigning before everybody else? Now, the thing about politics is not so much a question of whether you ask questions or not, but whether you know how to ask the questions. Because the truth of the matter is this. Is it only the presidency that we're talking about?
No.
Yes. Is it only someone want to... At any given point in time, there are very many things at play. Very, very many things. Accusations, counter-accusations. But the thing that is, for me, a constant, the deputy president is still the deputy president of this country. He has not stopped being the deputy president. He's the deputy president and at the same time leader of a particular party. The president is still the president. The party that brought him to power is still the party that brought him to power, but is now chairman of Azimio. If you look at what we are talking about right now, we are not talking about who wants to be president, in my opinion. We are talking about who has what to lose. That's the discussion. Who has what to lose should they not get what they want?
And if you're looking at this race or this particular competition, is that then in order to get what you want, then you have to go through this process.
Yes.
And if there are things that you're doing along the line which might then dock you some points, then you want to be careful of it.
Yes.
And so this is the question that we're asking, is that this war of words, this escalating war of words between these two gentlemen, and looking at the position that the deputy president is in today, does it harm or help his campaign? The next 7 days, will it do anything significantly in terms of harming or in terms of helping his race to the presidency?
Remember, whatever interest the deputy president had and whatever popularity, it peaked a long time ago. What it can only do now is recede. It's not going to peak beyond where it peaked. And remember, the others were playing a catch-up game with him because he was ahead. So, your guess is as good as mine. What do you think is going to happen? If you ask me, he will continue losing ground, not gaining it. The thing about words is that it gets to a point when people stop hearing it and they actually start analyzing it. And when they analyze it, then their own thoughts begin to crystallize. So that's the place we find ourselves in right now.
Well, we want to hear from you this morning as well. 0719-012-600, 0719-012-600. Is the escalating war of words between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto a vote winner or a vote loser for the UDA presidential candidate, for the UDA presidential ticket? Is the escalating war of words between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto a vote loser or a vote winner for the UDA presidential ticket? We're also running a poll on our socials this morning. Let us know what you think there. We'll take your comments. It's SpiceFM KE on Facebook. It's SpiceFM KE on Twitter. We'll take your calls on 0719-012-600. Even as we continue with this today, should Kenyans be privy to this? Even as we're hearing, you had your issues here and there. Is it important that Kenyans know the full, breadth of whatever was happening between the two? Many would argue, CT, you're having this because you're saying, I can't afford to lose whatever it is I have in order to get what I want. Many would ask the question, were they ever together in the first place? Or was it a relationship for convenience to put certain people in certain positions?
Let me rephrase the statement. Who has more to lose if they lose the election?
It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I think. But it's always a unity of convenience, isn't it?
It is, indeed. Let's take some of your calls this morning. Let's hear from Stephen in Nairobi. Stephen, good morning. Hello, Stephen. Good morning. Hello, Stephen. Are you there? All right. Before Stephen gets with us, let's hear from Robert this morning.
Morning. Morning.
Hello, Stephen.
How are you?
It's Robert.
Fine. Good morning. Good morning. This is Stephen.
Good morning, Stephen. How are you? Karibu sana.
Asante.
What are your thoughts on this morning?
Okay, the escalation of words between the DP and the president, I feel that it is meant to provoke emotions and consolidate people's bases so that they can be able to mop up people into one direction and vote in a particular way. I would look at it from that kind of a perspective. Yeah.
Okay. So to hear them fight like this in public is to make people lean in one direction or another, and it's just for the purposes of that?
Of course. You see, like when you realize when we were looking at the elections for the U.S. and at some point when Trump was trying to bring a certain kind of emotions to mop up, we call them the Red Indians, so that they can ensure that each person goes out and votes. Now, in our case in Kenya, I'm looking at it, you remember in the year 2017 when some people from specific region were mobbing each other, saying like Buraku, so that everybody could go out and ensure that they have voted. So it's a way of mopping emotions. That's how I look at it. And it's not very healthy and not very good, but I look at it from that kind of a perspective.
Thanks for your comments this morning, Stephen. Asante. Let's hear from others this morning. Maloa, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Hello, Maloa from Magarini. How are you this morning?
I'm doing good. How about you people?
Very well. We are well.
I'm very good. I've really missed the voice of Eric Latif.
He will be back.
We pray for the better part of it. Now, according to my contribution, these words are they're bringing unnecessary tension among us. And to some extent, I'm agreeing with our right president, because if you even hear his tone, at times tone talks much.
Right.
I like the tone upon which his points are being brought down. Yes, and I'm also of the idea that even our already deputy president should be in a tone such that even however much you are hurt, but the tone upon which you bring a thing to a people can bring much message than that tension, please.
I hear you.
I think again the tone can be of the interest maybe to bring a kind of a vote of sympathy. Thank you. That's my point.
Thank you very much, Malawa. Robert from Nandi. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you doing this morning?
I am good. It's raining, cold, and I have to repeat what I've always said here.
Yes.
That in this country, there are parts of this country that there is nothing like politics or progress. It's just a matter of creating tensions, painting people black, and then riding on that wave to get the votes. And it's so unfortunate that in our parts, mostly in Rift Valley, there's been nothing going on. We just sit back, wait for the politics, and then look for the guy to paint so black that they look like Satan, and tell our people, this is the guy who has been causing our problems.
And do you think it works?
Yeah, it has been working because our people are not realizing it. Yesterday we were in Eldoret, and people are trying to say that, and the persons who are attending those rallies are not even the locals. You wonder, but when they are told, the guy here, the black guy here is Raila Odinga, they say yes. Now that has been used before. They are now looking for the real guy to paint black, and unfortunately, it is coming late in the day. And they have identified Uhuru Kenyatta. And there's nothing they're doing on the ground. Roads here are so poor. Everything is just, I don't know. I don't know how we'll get out of this.
Well, I mean, there's 7 days to go. Let's wait and see exactly what happens. Robert, thanks for your comments. Let's hear from Dhiru Shah in Nairobi. Good morning.
Morning.
Yes.
My take on this is, it's the whole cake. They are all together. All oppositions who are in politically are all eating the cake. They are all multimillionaires. And end of the day, 100 people will be died, but those people will be sharing the cake. See, president will take 3/4 of cake, quarter will be given to all the oppositions. That is the reality.
Okay.
They are not working for the public.
All right.
That's my take.
Thank you for that, Dhiru. Let's hear from Pastor Gi Tao in Nairobi as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Pastor Katifa Gitao from here to the south at a place called Gateway.
Yes.
And I born from Lofori here to the south. Okay, my attitude or my word, I can say this. Where there is a race, there must be a winner and a loser.
Okay.
So during this election, those two parties, or Raila and Ruto, must wait for the election, because we are the one we are going to elect them, or elect one of those. And what I would like to tell them is they have to be satisfied after election. If you will win or you will lose. And we are now seeing the whole country that we must have peace in our country. Because we don't want any battle, we don't want any violence in our country, Kenya. So I would like to say that all we need is peace only. And we don't want any violence. And according to my attitude, where there is a race, there is a winner and a loser.
And everybody must.
So they have to accept.
Okay.
They have to accept.
All right, Pastor Gital, thank you very much for your comments this morning. We're still taking your calls. We're still taking your calls on 0719012600. We want to take a quick break and take a look at what's happening with weather and traffic. We can see you, and we will come back with that. Pocket by Mozilla allows you to store all your information that you want to read or listen to on a daily basis. You can download this app on the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. And we've heard and seen that you can create content, you can create collections about the different things that you're interested in. And because of this technology, it's updated on a regular basis basis. So you can always come back and read, and you can listen, and you can share. It's Pocket by Mozilla. Information on the go, updated according to your needs. It's 7:30 on the nose. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We come back and continue with your calls in this conversation after this.
Umenitusi karibu miaka 3, kuna mtu amewaguza. Hiyo miaka 3 nimekuwa kwa kiti, si nilikuwa na uwezo. Sasa wakati naenda kupatiana serikali na sina uwezo, ndio niko na time ya kukutafuta. Piga story yako, uza sera zako, wachana na mimi. Mimi nafanya kazi yangu, nimalize. Nyinyi muende muombe kura. Wananchi wakiwapatia sawa, wakiwanyima twende nyumbani pamoja. Shida iko wapi?
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
Ceci, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of... Has anybody been
I will not listen.
A bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This
15 degrees and cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 15. It's partly sunny at 15 in Nakuru. We'll go to highs of 22 and we'll see highs of 20. In a rainy Nyeri this morning at 14, and it's 14 and raining as well in Eldoret. Highs of 19 and lows of 12. Light rain at 22 in Mombasa. Highs of 28 today. It's also raining in Malindi at 22. It'll go to highs of 28, and it's 18 and rainy in Kisumu. We'll see highs of 26. The sun is shining in Kakamega at 15. It'll go to highs of 24. Back down to lows of 15. 18 degrees and sunny in Kampala, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 29 in Dar es Salaam, where it's sunny at 20, cloudy at 22, 9 degrees and partly cloudy in Johannesburg. It's raining in Lagos now at 24, and we'll see mostly cloudy conditions at 19 in Kinshasa, with highs of 29 and lows of 19.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
It continues in most parts. We're seeing most of the action this morning on the Thika Superhighway coming into that Pangani underpass. So you're meeting Pangani underpass with Muthaiga Square, and the traffic is madness. It's bumper to bumper in both directions. And we're also looking at Limuru Road, which started early, just way past Banana, coming out towards the village market, and then out further down past City Park. That still continues with quite some traffic this morning. All right, coming off of Langata Road, that's also pretty busy. We're also looking at traffic, which is quite crazy at certain parts of Outer Ring. North Airport Road also continues with some traffic this morning. We are in traffic hour proper. Let's see what happens in a short while. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let us know what's going on where you are. We're trying to keep things moving this Monday.
Digger Classifieds is an all-in-one platform to find jobs, buy and sell motor vehicles or properties, to pay tributes to the special people in your life. www.digger.co.ke, the one address in Kenya that everyone loves to visit. Digger Classifieds.
We know it is cold, but Cold Stone Creamery has hot deals for you. This month, enjoy cups of rich and creamy ice cream, delicious ice cream cakes, and fresh oven-baked cakes at amazing prices. Visit any of our stores in Nairobi or Mombasa and indulge in your favorite treats. Cold Stone Creamery, the ultimate ice cream experience.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Samsung sets the stage for a greater-than experience at this year's Samsung Galaxy Unpacked event, where the time has come to unfold your world and discover a brand new way to enjoy Samsung's innovative devices. It's the announcement.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right, back after 7:36 is where we are. 24 minutes to 8 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation continues, and we're hearing from you this morning. Very interesting to hear the things that have been going on, the things that have been said over the weekend, a few days to the weekend. CT Muga Ndu Oko and our guest host for today, Laura Walubengo, with you, having this conversation and saying, all right, is the escalating war of words between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto a vote winner or a vote loser for the UDA presidential candidate? I mean, are we looking at things really, really going sour, or does it not matter and they can just have this, public bout of words?
I think I don't think any more can be said after yesterday's response. If it's escalated from there, unless there's some new information that comes out, I really feel like that should be the end of it.
With politicians, Laura.
I'm reasoning too much.
Well, you're setting limits that don't exist in politics. When President Uhuru Kenyatta and Dr. William Ruto became president and vice president and deputy president, could you have foreseen a situation like the one we have right now?
Not at all.
Yes. So this is only in politics.
Yeah. And the truth of the matter is that, unfortunately, with politics, just as you're saying, that you never really know what the underbelly or the real situation is based on the words that people speak, that things can change like that. Let's hear some more of what Deputy President Ruto said with what we got an answer from the president thereafter.
Wachana na William Ruto. I supported you when you needed a man to support you. If you do not want to support me, leave me alone.
Gloves off with what it looks like. We'll take more of your calls on 0719012-600. Let's hear from you. Is the escalating war of words between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto a vote winner or a vote loser for the UDA presidential ticket?
The gloves are not off. No. Those hands are still covered in velvet. A presidency with two people, the first term, every presidential outing, every presidential season in this country is best characterized by a scandal or the other. This particular government, if you look at the problems that they had, it was not the bulk in the first term when they were getting along. So one could even argue, one could speculate and say, it's not as though one did not know what the other was doing. This is a presidency.
Right.
Presidency.
Yeah.
Okay? So, if gloves were off, the scandals we've heard of, things which may be in court, things which have been improved, you would have been hearing names being mentioned. Did you not take this? And did you not do the other? And none of that has come out. And every time one points a finger at the Deputy President, Dr. William Ruto, please understand you're pointing a finger at the President as well. And if you're pointing a finger at the President, you're pointing a finger at the Deputy.
Yeah. Indeed, because it was a presidency.
Yes. So it's both ways.
Indeed. Let's hear from you this morning as well. 0719012600. We'll keep taking your calls. Let's hear from Anthony this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
My name is Anthony. I believe whatever CT Muga has said is very accurate because, number one, for us to interrogate whether it's successful for the UDA as a party, we have to look at where the words are being said from. Where are they making these statements? And as what we saw over the weekend is the Deputy President made his statements somewhere in Kapsabet, while his deputy or running mate made them in the backyard in somewhere in Central. Places they already think they have won. So it was not to legitimize whatever they are saying, but to create a star that will enable the guys to show up, but not necessarily give them any more of the votes that they require.
So, Anthony, it doesn't really matter. Right. So it doesn't really matter what's being said right now. A decision in the minds of Kenyan voters has already been made. This little last bout doesn't make a difference?
The only difference that it will make them lose votes from the people who have not yet decided whether they want to vote one way or the other. Because the people who are on a national scale will be able to listen to them and paint the picture of where they're actually saying these words and see that they are not doing, they're doing a greater disservice to themselves and to the general Kenyan populace other than gain any popularity.
I hear you on that. Thanks for your comments this morning. Let's hear from others. Brian in Homa Bay, good morning.
Good morning.
Brian, I'm going to ask you to turn down the volume on your radio, please.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Okay, now to me, good morning, I'm a single Brian.
Yes.
It is not about winning or losing. It is about the electorate. To where it has reached, it is now something escalating a PEV we experienced 2007. So I think either of them should ignore the other. It shouldn't be about give, I return talk. I think they are messing it up because it will directly affect us.
How will it affect Kenyans, this particular war of words? How will it affect Kenyans from what you think, from what you see?
It is obvious. It will affect us now. It is now planting something like ethnicity in us. Yes.
Okay, thanks for your comments this morning, Brian. Let's hear from Mercy in Machakos. Good morning, Mercy.
Morning to you.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Fantastic. What are your thoughts on this and what you see?
I'm thinking most of the people's minds are already made up. But one thing I know with the Deputy President is he has a way of words. And he's been campaigning all along since even before the campaign period started. And I'm sure with his words he's able to change a few of the people who don't sit down and analyze what is going on and what has been going on previously. So when he utters and he speaks in anger, then there's that one common mwananchi who will be thinking, I'm thinking this Jama is right, the president anamwingililia. But what I think is people need to sit down and analyze what the Deputy President says and what the President says and reason for themselves and decide, not on their anger burst. Because I will also agree with Lee, these are political cousins, and after the elections, we never know. They will come back together and they will continue living their lives. So we need to reason and vote wisely, not on their anger bursts. Yes.
Thank you so much for your comments, Mercy. Asante sana. I mean, so what? I think we have two things here, because there are some folks who feel as though looking at this escalating war of words in public then has a direct effect on how a Kenyan will vote come next Tuesday. Others are saying, no, not really. The decision has already been made. It doesn't really matter what they say to each other. But then, looking at the other side, CT, is that they're saying it's not really a fight. If it were a fight, we would know that it was a fight. This is just,
The gloves are not off.
Yeah.
The gloves are definitely not off because there are many things that have been alleged to, many things that have been whispered, things that have been said, and wrongs that we can see. So I don't need someone to tell me. And yet, all these things seem to point to the presidency, many of these wrongs. Now, if the presidency has two people, surely they both must know what is going on.
Of course.
Or what has gone on.
If the light shines brightly, it shines brightly on both.
Yes, it does.
If
yes, it
there's
does.
a stain, it's a stain on both.
Yes, it's like the proverbial rain in the Bible. It rains on both the poor and the rich. It doesn't choose, it just rains. So, if you're talking about gloves off would have been, you would hear with clarity. This particular scandal, see you, Yes, and the other one, you think so? What about you? There was so
you did this.
You did this.
Gloves are not off. They're just at the periphery, just touching things which are on the periphery, and with the understanding that who knows, they may yet find an opportunity to work together.
Together yet again.
Yes.
Reconciliation is not something
Politicians
that is foreign.
don't go, seasoned politicians. They don't burn all their bridges. You just cut on the border. You reach, you appear, you give the appearance that you are at the precipice, but you're not actually there. You're really far away from it. But your talk, your tone, your posture indicates that you're right there, but you're actually not there. Not really.
Let's take some more of your calls before we come back to this. Kamana in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very, very well, sir.
Yeah, this is Kamana from Nairobi.
Yes.
Yeah, first I would like to correct, I think it's Muga who has said that the scandals in the first term were many than the scandals in this Uhuru's last term. But I would like to tell him that is the notion that everybody has. But the difference between the first term and the second term is that the government and the media are in bed. Because the scandals, just look at the Uhuru Gardens. How much money has been used? I hear it's close to 15 billion shillings. And that is something that we can't even, was not supposed to even be built by 4 billion. It is not even budgeted.
It was a scandal?
So I think, yes, it is. I mean, 15 billion shillings for a monument that is not helping anybody. Those are you see
but
the
is
problem
it a
with,
monument or is it a complex?
I mean, call it whatever you want to call it, but it is 15 billion.
What is it?
It is. Yeah, I would call it a monument because monuments are stuff that you build for history, and those are not things that are going to help the country because you can't be using 15 billion shillings to do something that the same 15 we are still the CBC, the Ministry of Education, is struggling to build classes for grade 7 and grade 8. And the amount of money required is less than 20 billion. But we've used 15 billion shillings to do a monument that would have done this in the next 30 years, and it would still have served the same purpose. And that is why I'm saying the problem with this government, the second term, has been doing projects that are vendor-driven. And the other thing is that they are in bed with the media, so the things are not being highlighted. And then we have this notion that scandals are not there. Number two, I would like to talk about the issue between the president and the deputy president. I think I would like to give it to William Ruto. He's a very patient man.
Okay.
If we go back to the government of Mwai Kibaki and the prime minister, we had issues from day one because a small thing would be highlighted and that guy would be very mad. But Deputy President Ruto has been very patient. I know there's a lot of things that he has been pushed. He's actually been pushed to the wall, but he's waited until, like even that meeting that was there. We don't know what the president said because it was not.
If I may just interject, are you aware that you're actually giving us your opinion and you're not providing facts to support the things you're saying?
That is my opinion, and I have the facts. I can tell you, Muga, we have an issue with the CBC. We don't have classes. We require 20 billion shillings. We have a monument that we've built. It is 15 billion shillings. I mean, what would you have done? Assuming you are the
president. Are you also aware that the Ministry of Education receives the largest chunk of our budgets, 30% of it? And the question you should ask is, what do they do with that 30%?
the thing is there's something called capitation, the amount of money that is sent to school to fund our education. Number 2, there is the salaries for our teachers, and number 3, there are also the other infrastructure that we're doing. We're improving our infrastructure for the schools. There are schools in this country that don't even have classes. They still have the mad world classes.
Right.
And the 86 billion, even the military, we get the amount of money that they get from our budget is equivalent to their needs. You can't say that you're going to give water 100 billion and then give education 30 billion shillings. Where are you going to get salaries from the teachers?
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments this morning, Kamana. Let's hear from other callers this morning. Asante. All right, Zachary in Nakuru. Well, I don't know that you're in Nakuru, but Zachary, good morning.
Oh, morning, people.
Morning, person.
How is everyone there?
Very well, thank you.
Now, because I know we don't have time, let me go back straight into the point. I do not know what I would do if I were the deputy president. And let me agree with those people who are saying that the guy is somehow patient and tolerant, because the kind of shame that probably has been put through for those of us who have been following closely, allow me to say that it originates from arrogance and ignorance,
On whose part?
On the part of the guy, the honcho now, the big guy, And I don't know what we would do if, like now, our wife stays with a man, brings up the kids. When the kids are grown up, and now they are working and they are able to support themselves and the parents, one of the parents says, "Oh, this guy was not good."
Zachary.
Up the kids. So,
You know, the beauty of this show is you're allowed to actually air your opinions. But let me ask you this question. Since you're somebody we've spoken to for so long, I actually get the feeling I know you well.
Okay, thank you.
What do you really know about the relationships that politicians have with each other? Forget what we have in the public domain, but what do we really actually know about what actually goes on?
For sure.
Yes.
Let me say this, What goes on between them actually, and that is actually what convinced us to go with them, both of them, But now they go in the house, they say, "Oh, this guy is doing this guy is doing this," and it reaches a point whereby they come to watch their dirty women in public. Actually, that is their correct picture. Let me say this, Some of the people have been very vocal, especially from Mount Kenya, They have been asked, "Why do you go against your own man?" Do you know what they have told us, especially in our vernacular stations, They have told us that we read arrogance. Somebody is arrogant. We tell him this is the way. Let us sit it down. They are met with utter arrogance. And let me say this. I was discussing just as you are going on with the program, that if in a house, the man does not want to hear the views of others, even the kids who have become of age, that home actually breaks down.
Does any of this,
on the other hand,
Zachary, does any of this affect the way, in your opinion, yet again, that people will vote come Tuesday?
We are going to vote, but let me say this: there was this word or view in the Nation editorial yesterday that toned down that rhetoric. Do you know who is gaining out of this? What do you call them? What? This rhetoric outburst. Most of us are actually sympathizing with the deputy president because the guy in the first place supported this man. And now comes a time that it's my turn. You are not supporting me. You are tarnishing my name. I mean, what do you expect, as a human being, what do you expect to happen?
Can I ask you a question, Zachary?
Do please, Molly.
You have given a good analogy of a family setup between, say, a wife and a woman. When couples disagree and even part ways, does anybody really know what happens between those two people, in all honesty?
We may not care to know, actually, to go into the details.
Then if you don't care to know, then why do you have an opinion on a subject that you're not fully informed about, Zachary?
From the onset, Mr. Mwarim, I've been saying this, and that was my opinion from the beginning. And I told you I'm from Gatondo South. And for the record, I never voted for Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta in the first place because I told people, as the way I see this thing, this is a marriage of convenience. And when the convenience is over, of course, now what we are seeing is actually the outcome. So I'm not surprised, actually. Okay? But on come Tuesday, I'm going to vote. I have my candidate,
Okay.
But people should not be that much worried because this, from the word go, it was a marriage of convenience.
Thank you very much for your comments this morning, Zachary. Asante sana. We'll take a few more calls this morning. Let's hear from Mary. Mary, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yes. I would say this without contradiction, that Deputy President ran away from the office. Why didn't he work until the last day so that he lives honorably? And if he wanted both, he should have just created a relationship for convenience, the way they did when they started. And by now, he would be moving without these squabbles. I want to say this. Ruto is so biased, and that is not the president that we want. We want a calm president to lead Kenyans to prosperity, but not a president who shouts, who abuses, who anaita wamama majina, huyo hatutaki. Those are my views, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you for those. So, been taking your comments this morning, even as we get to the top of the hour, hearing what Kenyans have had to say, what people are saying. Do you think that it moves in any one direction because of what we've heard this morning?
Do I think it changes people's minds?
Does it change? We're looking at 7 days to the vote. With what we are seeing now being made public, does it change people's minds? Does it say, okay, well, no, come on, guys, you shouldn't be doing this? It's not new. They've been doing this for some time now. But will it change, so close to the election, the decision that people are going to make to vote in one way or another?
Political narratives are just that, political narratives. The Deputy President speaks with a lot of energy and vigor. And he speaks in a way that some people call disrespectful, some say is insulting. But if you're to look finely at the things he said, you may not actually find the insults the way they've been presented. Not really. It may be derogatory, but it's not necessarily an insult. Just the same way he could say it, and it could be a term of endearment, but the tone then now makes it sound as though this man is actually being insulting. By the same token, are we asking that, or are we saying that Kenyans have stopped voting along tribal lines, and that suddenly now Kenyans are going to be listening to issues? And then you'll ask, so which are these issues that we're going to be listening to? Both sides have been saying more or less the same thing, just in different words.
That's true.
The one proof that we've had that Kenyans can actually vote outside tribal lines, oddly enough, in large numbers, was when Mike Mbuvi Sonko was governor of Nairobi.
Indeed.
Because he got elected by a cross-section of people. So it is possible. But is that the election that we're seeing now? Is that what we're seeing today? Is that what's going to happen? Because if it's the same thing we've seen before, it doesn't matter what is said. People made up their minds a long time ago, and they're going to continue voting the way they've always voted.
If the polls are the truth, folks are saying 50-50% is
yeah,
what
it
saying.
is 50-50 actually on Twitter.
Yeah.
But, as much as I agree with you, I also do feel that words play a really big role. They can say something today, tomorrow, banter or, the war of words that they've been having, and it will change somebody's mind, because I feel like there are a lot of people who are unsure who to vote for, and they're just waiting for just one sentiment that's going to land. I like the word that you use, also derogatory. It does sound very derogatory, and it's not really pointed at anything. So unless something happens between now and Tuesday, I do think the more they talk, the more they will sway a few people.
Right. Look, in all of this, it's very important. Elections bilanoma. As you're making the decision, whatever changes this week or not, whatever changes between what you've heard or not heard, I think one of the things that overrides all of this is making the vote in peace, making the decision and then sticking with the results of that in peace. NCIC, in a partnership with the Standard Group, is saying that even as you listen to the politicking, as you're listening to the campaigns, as you're listening to the messages, make your decision that will put Kenya in a peaceful state over and above all of this. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We continue with more in the next hour after we hear the news. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Aseto. The media has been assured of unlimited access to polling stations countrywide when the nation goes to the polls Tuesday next week. IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati said that an agreement between the media and the electoral body will see members of the fourth estate be able to report on events in all the voting stations countrywide in real time.
We had a meeting in Nairobi and signed an MOU now on the aspect of results transmission and managing around results transmission. In that MOU, then, the media will have unlimited access to all our 46,229 polling stations and all our 290 constituency tallying centers, and also the county tallying centers, and then here at the Bomas, the media will have access.
Chebukati gave the assurance at the Bomas of Kenya during the launch of media and call centers that will give stakeholders real-time information about the elections. The two facilities are hosted at the Bomas of Kenya, which is the IEBC Operations Nerve Center for the 2022 elections. Now, Labour Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has scoffed at the attempt by the United Democratic Alliance flag bearer William Ruto to have him join his political fold by promising him a top position once he clinches government. While on a campaign tour, Musyoka asked Ruto to leave him alone and leave him out of his politics and focus on wooing the electorate.
Anaenda huko kwetu Mwingi, anajifanya yeye ni wakili yangu. Mimi sikutuma Ruto kwa mambo hayo. Nikamwambia Ruto, please leave me alone. Leave me alone, tafuta kura zako. Mimi hata siko kwa ballot, unanitafutia nini? Kimbizana na baba atakunyorosha. Kwa hivyo hatuna ubaya, ni roho safi. Tunahimiza Wakisii wote, Wakenya wote, imebaki wiki moja Kenya ipate mabadiliko. Huku tukimtakia Uhuru Kenyatta akapumzike vizuri. Si ni kweli? Mambo ya uongozi wa nje ni kazi ngumu zaidi. I'm quite sure Uhuru looks forward to retiring.
Ruto, during a campaign tour in Kitui County, had claimed the former vice president had been lied to by Raila Odinga by being offered a non-existent position in the constitution. Musyoka, in his response, said that the dishing out of positions was not entirely for the benefit of certain communities, but for all Kenyans to benefit from the next government. And as Mila Umoja One, Kenya Secretary General Junet Mohammed is termed as fake news leaked audio of a man alleged to be him having talks with one of the commissioners at the electoral agency IEBC. Mohammed termed the fake audio as a desperate attempt by the rivals to mudslay and bring down the efforts of the Raila Odinga-led coalition days to the general election. The Suna East MP went further to call upon investigative agencies to look into the matter and bring to book those found culpable of the mischief. And the Catholic bishops have urged the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission to instill confidence on the validity of the general election to preempt chaos in the country. At the same time, the bishops have called on politicians to tone down on their abuses against each other in public and conduct mature politics. Addressing a press conference on behalf of other bishops, Nyeri Catholic Archbishop Anthony Muheria said that it's important for the Commission to explain to Kenyans steps they are taking to ensure the polls are free and fair.
We have decried and very strongly sending this message to our leaders that it is unbecoming. We cannot listen to those kind of utterances that are character assassination or those posters that we are seeing that are demeaning, that is no longer politics. That calls for action by the relevant authorities. But above all, introspection to that leader who has to go. That desperate move, it is most unfortunate. May we desist. This is a gift to Kenya. Give Kenya peace by giving them peaceful messages, by utterances that are mature and that are focused on building a Kenya that we desire.
And in the same breath, Standard Media Group continues to push for peaceful messages and peace among Kenyans as we approach next week's general election through the Elections Bill and Normal campaign together with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
There's a pileup of traffic on Langata Road this morning, and it's going out towards Raila Odinga Way and taking off some of that, but it looks like we'll get out of that when most of our vehicles are off after 8:30 or so. It started really early on Lunga Lunga. In and outbound traffic is doing a thing, as it is on Jogoo Road today as you're getting out towards that Kamkunji spot. But then onto Haile Selassie, it's going to move slower as you're trying to get into the CBD. All right, into the CBDs where most roads are leading today, coming out of Westlands. That looks pretty heavy. You can use the Red Hill Link Road, but you're still going to get stuck in traffic as you're getting into the CBD, but not too bad. Leaving the CBD also is not too much of an issue if you're coming off of Uhuru Highway. We're also looking at traffic that started really early on the Thika Superhighway, bumper to bumper, coming out through the Pangani Underpass. And we're also looking at Kiambu Road, quite packed as well. Limuru Road, also back-to-back traffic, bumper to bumper in both directions. That's what's happening with that. What's going on where you are? Hopefully we can keep this Monday thing under wraps in terms of traffic. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE. On Twitter, let's keep things moving.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up,
Coming
not
up
down.
to 7 minutes after 8 o'clock.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
And we say thank you for joining us, and we welcome our audience on KTN Home this morning. Asante Sana, Ndu Oko, C.T. Muga, and our guest host for today, Laura Walubengo. Thank you for joining us this hour as we go into conversations that are in the country and indeed around the world this morning. As we start off with that this hour, let's hear today's proverb.
Good morning, boys and girls.
The proverb of the day is brought to you by Aquafresh Fresh Gel.
Do not buy salt. Don't buy salt if you haven't licked it yet. You know salt by its taste.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Nothing, not by its looks.
You know salt by its taste, not by its look.
I've really not been buying this proverb.
The proof of this particular pudding is in the licking.
Brush your teeth twice a day with Aquafresh Fresh Gel, the secret to long-lasting...
All right, our guest for this hour, Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, will be with us shortly. This Nairobi expressway does its things to people every now and then, turning off on Mombasa Road. But she'll be with us shortly as we look into elections taking place on the 7th of August, and we're looking at a date that has been long awaited. Everybody's waiting. Okay, so what decisions will you make? Those who've been undecided, those who may not be sure, because we do, I think in the last hour of this conversation, we said, look, there are folks who are thinking across board and say, well, I know who it is that I am going to vote for when I go to cast my vote come the 9th of August, right? But there seems to be a number of people who are waiting to be wooed in one direction or another, who are waiting for that last thing to be said, who are waiting for that last element of persuasion to then make the decision on which way to go. So the question that we're asking this hour is that, so what makes that decision for you? Who is it then it's going to tip the scales for you? Who is it that's going to then be able to say, you're not quite sure which way you should be going? It is this that I will do, or it's this that I will tell you to convince you of my position, which essentially then would convince you of yours. So what's it going to take to get those who've not made a decision today about who they're going to give their precious vote to then move them in one direction or another? Many have said the water has been poured. What is to be said has already been said. What's to be done has already been done. In the next 7 days, what is it possibly that anybody could say that would then sway anybody in one direction or another?
The thing about voting is that it's a very small minority of, not Kenyans, people who will need the sort of persuasion that you're talking about, a very small percentage. The vast majority of people will have made up their minds. They made up their minds a long time ago. They know how they're going to vote, and very little is going to dissuade them. The only thing that brings about change in voting patterns usually is at the local level, at the MCA level and the MP level, where someone may be popular, but the party that is dominant in that region have not given him the ticket, and they go to either another party or they're independent. At that level, votes change. But most voters in Kenya are very clear about who it is they want to vote for president. And it isn't some of these logical reasons we like giving. It's none of those things. Even when people vote for people at the, as I call the local level, it is not for the reasons that you think.
But voting is a very emotive thing to do. And I think there's one word that I saw on Facebook last week that made me really think, why is it that I'm going to vote for whoever I'm going to vote for? And the word that was presented is safety. Like, who do you feel safe with? So do people actually have specific emotions that cause them to vote? And what is it that are you looking for somebody who is not a thief? Are you looking for somebody who you can trust? Or are you looking for a feeling that you think you're going to have in somebody's hands?
You know, we're looking at maybe towards the middle of these campaigns that we saw, we started hearing the buzzwords that went with this campaign, with these campaigns across board. It didn't really matter what side you were on. And even if it doesn't matter, of the 4 candidates that we look at today, everybody's touching on something that would essentially affect the economy of this country, that it has been the economy, that people are looking on filling their bellies, that people are making sure that there's a secure and sustainable source of this sustenance that will move them from one point to the other, that people want to be able to send their children to school, that people want to go to medical facilities and access affordable healthcare and efficient healthcare. Those are the issues that people are concerned about. So I hear you when we talk about that safety. In which people are these things? In which people then will we be able to be sure that you can get these things that you're looking for? Those things come into play. So is the rhetoric really important to people, or are people really concerned about where they're going to be able to get their daily bread on a daily basis, and who is the one who is going to be able to deliver that? And they're making demands on people in a way in which they've never made demands on people before. That don't just come and tell us this. We see this from the different wards in Nairobi around the country, where people are sitting would-be leaders down and saying, no. Don't just give us what you would have given us before. Tell us what you actually intend to do. And can we live? Can we depend on that promise?
The voter is far more sophisticated than most people assume. Sophisticated in this sense. They have an idea of who to get entertained from and when to get entertainment. And that's why they'll come in large. Entertainment, if you look at any form of entertainment, people attend in really large numbers. Not necessarily that you will get money from it, but just having been there on that particular day, being part of that event, it is fodder, it is food for thought, for discussion. That they're going to vote. You will be amazed at how the voter interrogates these issues in detail that you don't talk about open, or we don't even think about open, but they do. And they have a very, very clear understanding. They may not tell you, but they have an understanding. Now, even when you think that a voter will vote for someone because they come from their community or they feel this person has helped them in the past, those aren't the only reasons that people use. And with every election, the voter gets smarter because the voter is more aware of more things than they were in the election that preceded that one.
That preceded that one.
Yes, exactly. So what a voter will do, believe me, they are clear. Anyone who's a seasoned politician, we have a seasoned politician in our midst here, and somebody whose understanding of people is probably better than most because they also attend to people's spiritual needs. So you'll find the understanding of how people think and how they go about their business. She may agree with me. I suspect that she's going to agree with what I'm saying. But the truth is, voters are very sophisticated. When they vote, don't assume that they woke up and somebody gave them 200 bob. Yes, that may have been a truth in a time gone by. In this day and age, voters are far more sophisticated than that.
Good place to welcome our guest for the hour. Good morning, Bishop Margaret Wanjiru. Asante sana for joining us.
Good morning and hello, everybody.
We're glad to have you here. We know that the expressway has been opened. President Uhuru Kenyatta commissioned it yesterday.
Yes.
And then the company then responsible for making this happen then went ahead and said, all right, now that he's commissioned it, everybody can go ahead and use that this morning. Did you use it this morning?
We didn't use it, but where we exited, I don't know what happened. I think then we joined it somewhere because we found ourselves at Syokimau. and I was like, I was busy on the phone. So I looked at my driver and asked, did you pass KTN? Did you pass Standard? And he was like, yeah, I think we have passed. And we were really far. We had gone past the airport. We had gone all the way to Syokimau.
Well, look at it like this. You had an opportunity to see different parts of Kenya in the morning. So that's a good thing sometimes. So yes, the expressway has been opened after the commissioning by His Excellency President yesterday. And so that's back open for use after that trial period and the commissioning has taken place. Asante sana for joining us this morning.
And I think we are some of those people who will suffer getting lost for a while until we get used to the expressway, I tell you.
It'll happen.
But it's good. Yeah, thank you for welcoming me.
You're in the hot seat yet again.
Yes, I'm in the hot seat again.
Yes. And, questions that are being asked by very many Kenyans, by many people who are responsible for making the decisions as to who their leaders will be. This is interesting because for the longest time in politics, a year is a long time, Kenyans have been told, given the promises over and over again. Yes. But now the responsibility of taking those things having been said and turning them into action now rests on the shoulders of Kenyans when they will make the vote.
Yes.
Come Tuesday.
Yes, come Tuesday. And as I found him saying, we are at a place where the voters are able to make independent decisions. Yes, money has its place and its play to the people. Of course, we are selling our agenda and our vision. Then there is the gender balance, the male-female figures. Then there is the old politics. We were there before, what we did before, our track record. So all these things are coming into play and decisions will be made coming on the 9th. However, we also have the party politics taking their place, doing their play in the ground. Because a few weeks ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there were no signs that people will be voting 6-piece. But now it's shaping up. Now it's shaping up that even you go to a place, people say, oh, before we were only considering you, but now we'll go the whole lineup. So even party politics are shaping up.
Why do you think that change has been? Why do you think that previously people were going to select one person? People were going to select Margaret Wanjiru.
A couple of weeks ago, people were looking at the track record. A couple of weeks ago, people were looking at this one person, the image of one person. But now when people go out together and campaign together, then the crowd, the voters start looking at the whole team. And there could be 1 or 2 people they don't agree with, but for the sake of the others, they say, fine, we'll do party politics here. Then also, people have been able to understand, like, for example, the 2 main coalitions. Our coalition, Kenya Kwanza, I'm in Kenya Kwanza, and then there is the Azimio coalition. So the coalition now is coming into play. So people are looking and saying, oh, you're going to go with the Kenya Kwanza or with Azimio. They can make their choice. They can look at the coalition as a team.
There's some, though, that, as we have this conversation, there are some who are looking in this week, looking in the next coming days, and they're not sure which way to go.
Yes, they're undecided.
Why? Yeah, undecided.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. Yeah. With all that has been said and done, one may assume, falsely, that they should have been able to make a decision by now.
The undecided are people that they're not politically minded. They don't think about politics. Some of them don't want to get involved. And believe it or not, that's where the Christians are coming from. Most of the very religious people would rather stay at home and pray. But this time it's not the same. Now people are getting out of the prayer room to the voting station. Before, it was like, let me just pray and God will do something. You see, God will not vote for us. And then also, as one of my colleagues said yesterday, God will not rig for us. So God is not voting, neither is he rigging. So after you do all the prayers as Christians or Muslims, these religious people, after all the religious people do their prayers, get out and vote. And vote people of good morals, vote people that can keep their word, people of integrity, people that are honest, people that are transparent, and people that will be available. You see, it is also wrong to vote in leaders who, after the voting and the swearing in, you never see them again. They disappear. People that needs to be voted in this time around are people that are available to go back to the community, to go back to their counties, go back to their voters, and work for them. But this voting and then you disappear will not work this time around. We must consider the availability of the leader after the elections. Now, if you cannot see me transparent at this time that I'm campaigning, then I'm not going to be transparent once I'm elected. It is important for the voters to choose people of integrity, accountability, transparency. You promised something. Did you keep your word? You've been there before. Do you have a track record? And if you have a track record, like yesterday, I was in Madare, where I've been an MP before. The projects I found, I was actually very happy. Not really a good thing, but I was happy for myself. I was happy for myself. It sounds a bit selfish, but it's not. I was happy for myself because I found the projects I initiated, the projects I implemented. Some of them still have their writings on. They are reading 2012. I mean, the projects I did then as the projects that they are benefiting from today. Meaning that if then I did not bring in the water, we would still have no water in Madare. If I didn't bring in the electricity, we would still have no electricity in Madare. If we didn't open the roads, we opened the roads and left some of the roads like the main bridges, which we didn't have the budget. We did them, but we didn't complete. Up to date, they've never been completed. So you wonder, really, the leaders that have come after, let's say, especially the last 5 years, what have they done the last 5 years? What do they have to show? If what we see is what I did, so then what happened to what they have done? It tells you they have not done anything and they have not been visiting their communities. Then we also have the tribal politics doing their play this time around. Tribal politics will create some form of balance because what is happening right now, if I may look at the Nairobi politics, is that some communities feel that they have been shortchanged. Reality is hitting that, hey, here we have been shortchanged. So they will prove it during the voting that even if they manage to get one person at the top there, that is what they will do. But as communities, and especially the bigger blocks, the bigger voting block, they say we cannot do without one of our own at the top there. So tribal politics are also shaping up. All these things are coming to play. But Nairobi is cosmopolitan.
Yes, it is.
And we are urban. We play differently from the rural politics, and also the agenda, the vision, the mission. What do you stand for? Who do you represent? And one aspect that we cannot overlook, I knew it, but I never thought it was major. As going out there to campaign, I found out it's a major factor, is the morals of the youth. the real parents, my age, parents that are real mentors, parents that want to raise their children in a good atmosphere are really concerned about the morals of our youth. The morals are very down. Most of our youth are in drugs. Most of our youths are in alcohol. Most of our youths are wasting their potential away, and this has to change. The situation is so bad that if it doesn't change, we are losing the next generation. Now, me as a mother, I can't afford to lose the next generation. That one I can't afford. Yeah.
So what is your focus? Should you be given the seat, what is your focus for the next 5 years?
My focus for the next 5 years, first things first. Our youth must be removed from where they are. That stagnancy, that wasting away of potential, that place where they are doing absolutely nothing. In the Sheng kwa kijiji tunasema wanakanga tu hapo juu ya mawe. They really do nothing important with their lives except chew mogoka for the whole day. So number one, we must get the youth out of those stones they sit on, out of wasting their potential, give them jobs. Those who are totally destroyed by alcohol, get them to rehabilitation centers. And of course, we are also suffering the problem of teenagerhood pregnancy. Teenager pregnancy is too much in our communities. So we must take our girls into safe houses because some of them are pregnant, but they are not safe where they are. So safe houses in Nairobi are very disappointing. We only have one, and yet we have such a crisis. So we have to increase the safe houses. That said and done, we have a big problem of water in Nairobi. We have places where water comes once a week. And yet, to my understanding, and I've not been in government for a while, but to my understanding is that the Northern Corridor pipe is ready. So why it has not been opened, I don't know. However, it's just another 1 week. After the swearing in, we will find out. People, if they elect me, the first thing I'll do is to find out what has happened to the Northern Corridor pipes and why aren't we having enough water, because we need to solve this problem of water. NMS did some boreholes, but most of the boreholes didn't work, and those that did, the waters are not clean. So that now has also to be addressed. Then we go to education. I'm hearing some of our principal politicians promising free education. You know, Kenyans are so sick and tired of free education. Why? Because we have been promised before, and it didn't work. We were told it's free. By the end of the day, we pay more than we used to pay when it was never free. So I'm not going to bet on that free education agenda. Mine is the MP and the MCAs, and the MCAs are working directly at the county, which means I, as a senator aspirant, or as a senator candidate, once we are elected, and now I'm a senator, I push for the agenda, I push for the money, I push for the budget to come to the county. Once the money is there, my oversight role means that I need to know what that money is doing. I will push for the increase of bursaries, the increase for bursaries for our children to go to school. I will also want to see some improvement there in the fact that I would like to see the bursaries being given on the right time. The right time means when children are going back to school, not after they have been chased from school. Yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
Before I ask the question that I want to ask, can I ask who it is who is supposed to be responsible for putting up safe houses?
It is supposed to be the county. The county can put up safe houses. The county can put up rehabilitation centers. You cannot leave that for Ministry of Health. You cannot leave that. That is a social problem. You cannot leave it for who? The national government. It is the same as we are saying about business. We, UDA party, the Kenya Kwanza, we have promised that we are going to put 20 markets in Nairobi. We cannot leave all the 20 markets to the national government. Yes, the national government can do probably 10 or 8, but the county government should do the bigger part of it. So the 20 markets will be built, and the county government must participate in that work. So putting up of the infrastructure, and also let's look at health. What has the national government done? The national government, in some of the clinics, some of the health facilities, they put the infrastructure. But those clinics, those health facilities do not have doctors, do not have medicine. Now, the county government should come in and put the medicine, the drugs into those health centers.
Are we talking about within the county of Nairobi? Are we talking about we had the health director for Nairobi Medical Services here,
yes.
and you give us a really good rundown, a footprint of what they've actually been able to do.
Yes.
So are you looking at now an overhauling of that system?
No.
Or complementary to what they've already been able to do?
There are those health facilities that belong to the national government. There are those that belong to the county government. A good example is Mama Lucy. Mama Lucy is a county government facility. So the drugs in Mama Lucy, the drugs in some of these health facilities should be given, should be bought and supplied by the county. And the county governments, the governors should not lie. They have been buying drugs. They have been paying. The problem is not the buying and the paying. The problem is that there is no stock check. There is no systems. There is no management that can even manage the HR, the human resource of the doctors and the nurses that work in these health facilities.
Actually, the Director of Medical Services in the NMS agreed with you up to a point and said, yes, they don't have enough drugs. But the problem that NMS faced was there was a backlog of debts.
Yes, they haven't paid.
Yes, that were owed to KEMSA.
Yeah.
It's a problem that literally every county government in this country.
But what happened to the drugs that they bought? Because people never received them.
What happened to the drugs that they said they bought? Because they said they bought it.
All right, we continue with this. Let's just take a break on that, and we come back with this conversation, getting into that. Our guest this hour is Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, senatorial aspirant in the UDA, on a UDA ticket, and we will take a break 8:30, and we come back right after this.
Senatorial candidate. I also make the same mistake.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Tunapozidi kuboresha sekta ya kilimo, tunakumbatia mbinu bora za kiteknolojia. Kwa wakulima wote, Standard Group PLC kupitia Farm Kenya itaandaa siku ya maonyesho ya kilimo ikiwashirikisha washikadau wa sekta mbalimbali. Maonyesho hayo yatazingatia kumudu ukulima na ufugaji ili kuboresha maisha nchini Kenya. Jiunge nasi katika uwanja wa Dumberi Stadium, kaunti ya Kiambu, kutoka tarehe 1 hadi 2 mwezi Septemba kuanzia saa 2 asubuhi. Kushiriki, wasiliana na Caroline kupitia 0723-803-601 au barua pepe cnyandieka@standardmedia.co.ke. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Standard Group PLC na Farm Kenya.
To be Kenyan is to embrace diversity. The many faces and colors of our nation are what makes Kenya, Kenya.
Election bila noma, penda jirani. This message is brought to you by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCIC, in partnership with the Standard Group.
All right, 15 degrees and cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll go to highs of 22 today and lows of 15. It's 16 and mostly cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 22 and lows of 14. We'll see lows of 13 in a rainy Nyeri this morning at 15. We'll see highs of 19 in Eldoret, where it's raining at 14, and mostly cloudy conditions now in Mombasa at 23. Go to highs of 28. 28 will also be the high in Malindi, where it's raining as well. 19 degrees and rain showers in Kisumu, highs of 25, and we'll see highs of 24 in Kakamega, where the sun is out at 17. It's partly sunny at 20 in Kampala. It'll go to highs of 25, and we'll see highs of 28 in a sunny Dar es Salaam, currently at 23. It's 7 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 18, and Lagos still raining. We'll see highs of 28 this morning. 29 will be the high in a sunny Kinshasa at 20. SpiceFM. Spice up your life. We are in traffic hour this morning. It still continues on Langata Road, pretty heavy as you're getting out towards the exits. We're looking at Raila Odinga Way taking on some of that burden and then feeding onto Ngong Road out around Community as you're getting into the CBD this morning. Coming out of Western still looks pretty heavy as well. James Gishuru not looking too bad, but it still continues with traffic as well. Looking on that other side of the city, the Thika Superhighway, pretty heavy as you're coming into town, as well as coming off of Limuru Road and Kiambu Road this morning. It still continues. Heavy traffic this morning in most parts. We are in traffic hour. Let us know what's going on where you are. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right.
Mornings done right. 94.4.
Kenya's biggest conversation continues with our guest this hour, Bishop Margaret Wanjiru. And welcome now to our audience on KTN News as well. So we're looking at wooing the undecided voter. And CT had a question before he asked the question on the state house, on the safe houses within the county. So going towards that.
The question I wanted to ask was, when you say there's a leaning towards six-piece voting, I understand the concept.
Yes.
But are you saying that people have stopped looking at the individuals they wanted to vote for?
We are saying that the manifestos that have been presented to the common mwananchi by different coalitions, by different, in this case, just basically two coalitions, those manifestos are beginning to be considered by the people. The people are looking at who among the two coalitions will work better for me, which works better for our region, which works better for our county, which works better for our constituency. They are looking at that.
You know, Bishop, you're a seasoned politician.
Yes.
And when I said you understand people, your day job.
I deal with people.
Yes.
Day to day.
Your day job.
Yeah.
Politics aside.
Yeah, the bishop.
You deal with people, and you've been dealing with, by the time you get to bishop, you've been dealing with people for a very, very long time.
Yes.
More than what you call the so-called politicians.
Yes.
Because most of the interactions with people are seasonal.
Yes.
When they need, but not you. You're on a 24-hour call. Now, because of this understanding that you have of people, I want to ask you this question. Do you honestly think that people are going to change the way they traditionally vote?
I really think that people will change. Number one, I think people will go for quality. I also believe people will go for track record. People will go also for the manifestos, as I said earlier, but also people will go for the integrity factor. People will look at individuals and look and see if that person is there, then we can trust that team. A good example is, as I said earlier, the MCAs are not independent from the governor, the senator, and even probably to some extent the woman rep. So these three, the governor, the senator, and the woman rep, really also dictates who will be elected as MCA, because the MCA will work with them. Now, the way the system is, CDF coming into play, the MP will also have to have a relationship, a good working relationship with the three county leaders. That way now people are looking at, can so-and-so work with this one? Can this work with that? Then also there must be somebody. There is something we say when we are campaigning. My colleagues will always say, when we go wrong and things are going the wrong direction, Bishop Margaret will always call us round the table and make everybody sober up. So they are looking at who will bring in the equation that we need here, who will reason out for us, who is there for us, who can we trust. The element of trust and honesty is very important.
But if that's what people are looking at now, what is it that they used to look at before? Was it not the same aspect?
Most of the time they were looking at the tribes. My people, Mudoito. They were looking at the tribe. Is that my tribe person? Is that my tribe person? But for some of us who have a track record, we have proved to be non-tribal. So people are looking at us with the track record, the work we have done. They are looking at us with the transparency, the accountability. Can we hold accountable for the resources at the county? Are we really going to have zero corruption at the county? Is the money going to come out of the national government to the county, and how will the money be spent at the county? Because that is key. The problem is never really getting the money out of the national government. The problem is how the money is spent at the county. So are we going to have our eyes there to see how that money is spent? And the answer is yes. And if people look and see, yes, Bishop Margaret is there, we are going to have that money well spent, I am sure this seat I'm winning.
Corruption has been a big issue.
Yes.
Continues to be one.
Yes.
I mean, we're told about the kind of money that is taken on a daily basis. We've seen even leave alone the statement that the president made.
Yes.
We see this. The EACC in the last 1 month has been telling us horror stories of the amounts of money that have been leaving. Individuals in state office, in public service, stealing. From what I hear you say, we're looking at a situation that because the likes of you then would be in a particular government office, that we will see a dramatic reduction of this thing that has been eating away at Kenya for the last 40 years.
Yes.
How would that happen?
Let me use the county government of Nairobi as an example. We have a budget that runs to approximately 35 billion. By the end of the day, coming from the revenues and coming from the national government, we have an income of about 30 billion plus. So the budget is a bit exaggerated than the income. But I also believe that the budget can be cut down and the income can be enhanced. That have been said. Am I going to be the donkey that works so hard to get the money in and then allow the governor and the MCAs or the leadership now at the real county level destroying the work that I have done by being corrupt down there? That I will not allow. A senator has the authority to ask for a statement from any government agency or county agency when you see they are not doing the right thing. So we have this, for example, we have this project, and the budget, I feel the budget of that project is exaggerated. I have the right to call for a statement, for the governor to come and explain himself or herself and say, this is how we are doing this project and this is the budget. I have a right to consult professionals and ask, is this budget exaggerated or not? Now, that way I am able to mitigate and say, here we can see the arm of corruption. We can see somebody is being corrupt in this agenda, and we are not going to allow it. So I have my authority of oversighting as a senator. That, leaving that alone, let's look at, we said we are building 20 markets in Nairobi. So let's take one market and say, for example, this market has been built in a particular constituency. Constituency A, the market is complete. The next agenda, the corruption is not only at the construction. The corruption would now come in at the distribution of that market. And how does the corruption come in? The people who build the market, now the officers begin to sell the space. They ask people to bring in money. They bring people from other county. And you are forgetting that we have very many hawkers in Nairobi. You are forgetting we have a problem of where people can do their business, especially the SMEs. So what are we going to do? The list that the real beneficiaries of these markets, the original list, I've worked as an assistant minister. And what we did, even when we build markets or we build houses, we had an original list, a data that says these are the beneficiaries. So good leadership dictates or demands that you follow up to the original list. The real people that you are building for are the real beneficiaries for these markets. It's not you build markets and then you bring rich people now to come and buy that space. It is we build market and give to the real beneficiaries. That is my role, to ensure that it is not somebody outside the county, and also it's not somebody who just came with some money and bought some space. It's not.
Many would call it a gargantuan task.
Something like that.
I mean, because of what we've seen. And this is the thing. If we're talking about undecided voters, I offer that the reason why many people are undecided is because, unfortunately, and many, even those who are actually decided, is that you've seen the same thing
They're tired.
happen in a cyclical manner, in the same way, by oftentimes the same people.
They are fatigued.
And so they're waiting to see the one who actually has the will. And that's the thing.
Yes.
We can say, anything we want until the cows come home, but who has the actual will to get this thing done? Because it is an uncomfortable position to come and unseat what has been seated for decades.
You said it well, the will. I'll add goodwill. The goodwill for the people. The good faith to see that these projects benefit the people. The good faith to ensure that the actual beneficiaries really benefit from this. There is a project that was done some times back, some water project. And then after all the piping and all the water we had put, again, for example, in places like Mathare, then people came when the devolution was implemented. The first governor of Nairobi said we are going to change how this water is distributed within the slums. And they introduced something new. And with whatever they introduced, actually, by the end of the day, now the water totally disappeared. Now, if what we are doing does not help or enhance for the common mwananchi to benefit, then we are not doing the right thing. But for me, I'm for the people. And I can't run away. As you said, I have a church. I have Jesus is Alive Ministries.
It's called your day job.
It's my day job, and people will come and find me there in the church and say things are not going right here and there. So I have to live up to the standards that we have set and deliver the agenda.
But the real problem here may not be you, one senator.
Yes.
There are other senators.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, the track record of the Senate as well as the National Assembly, in this last 5 years, not good.
I agree with you.
Because you have what you call task forces investigating into things that concern the country, like the Kemsa thing. And they talk tough, and they fire and brimstone, and they spit fire. Then you read the report and you wonder, what on earth is
what
this?
What are they saying?
No names mentioned.
Nothing. Because the drugs didn't come into the country by themselves. All the kits that we needed, all these things that made up the scandal that we refer to as the Kemsa scandal, they didn't procure themselves. There were people involved. Not a single name. To date, the issue has been left suspended. Now, why I keep going back to your day job is because in 1992, there's a lady called Mary Wanjiro. She won on a Ford Asili ticket. She was MP for Kinangop. She was my favorite MP for a long time. Her, in the middle of parliamentary processes, she could break into prayer. People used to take off from parliament, literally run out of that particular house. She was a prophetess.
Maybe you are saying I should start prophesying in the studio.
The reason why I've brought in Mary Wanjiro is this. She lived up to a certain higher moral standard, and people knew she did.
Good. People knew what she stood for.
Oh, they knew.
Very good.
They knew. So they'd rather just keep out of her way.
Yes.
Because they knew she was not going to get mixed up in their day-to-day activities. Now, there are people who say that, yes, the changes that we talk about don't need a committee. They need just one individual.
Yes, who can change things.
Making a stand.
Very good.
And continuing with that stand. Now, are we saying that we can rely on you, should you become the senator, to be that person in that Senate who's going to make that stand?
Yes, sir. You can rely on me, the public can rely on me, and my track record is known. I will tell you the Mary Wanjiro story, why she didn't come back into politics. It was not because of herself. It was now because of the party politics. I can tell you I've also suffered because of party politics. It has gone to an extent I'm trying to think, this party politics sometimes don't drive us the right direction. But for what we stand for and the morals that we stand for, I enjoy it when I go to campaign and people out there speak to me about what I stand for. I stand for Christianity, I stand for good morals, I stand for integrity, and they can hold me accountable. I realize also there is the matter factor. especially dealing with the youth. When you meet the youth, the way they treat, somebody told me in Embakasi South, you know Embakasi South where the houses were demolished, and there is a certain place where people don't enter, even politicians don't enter. This is the place where people are living in tents. Now when I went, they opened the road for me, and I asked, mnataka niingie? They said, yes, wewe ni mama yetu. Now that to me means a lot. That me as their mother, I can enter. But anybody else coming through that road, you can't pass a certain place. A certain area is blocked. Why? Because they have suffered so much and they have reached to a level whereas they cannot trust anybody. Now, for me to know that they trust me as a county mother, as their mother, that's a big plus to me. And I will not disappoint Nairobians. I will not disappoint Kenyans at large. My track record as a senator, as we start after these elections, you will just keep tabs and count and see what Bishop Margaret Wanjiru is doing. I may not be prophesying everywhere I go or speaking in tongues everywhere I go, but I will, and I may not be hitting people with the Bible everywhere I go, but definitely I will uphold good morals, I will uphold integrity, and I'm going to call the Nairobi County to accountability and to the transparency of the use of resources. I am for zero corruption. Zero corruption.
Does it matter then about those who may be in your company when you talk about party politics?
Yes.
Let's look at party affiliation as well.
Yes.
Does it then matter the people that you stand with?
Yes.
The people who lead the party, the people who lead the coalition, people who are your colleagues in the party that may have had a checkered past. Does it matter how much influence they have on then your image?
Yes.
Or is that something not to be considered?
No, it has to be considered. It has to be considered to a certain extent. Kenya has not reached a place, or Kenyan voters, or let's say the real Kenyans, because everybody is a voter. It's only that some decide not to vote and others are voting. But everybody should do their civic duty and vote. But Kenyans have a way of looking at some people because of their popularity, not because of their character. I think we need to bring a paradigm shift between the popularity and the character. That is why you see some people are accepted or they can be sent to create a political agenda because they are a brand in terms of popularity. But if you are to look at the nitty-gritties and look at the character, is a totally different story. So we are still to create that balance between the popularity and the character. And that is why independent candidature is not very popular. If it was, many people would go independent because you want to say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for.
Would you vote for some of the people if you were on the other side of the stage? Would you vote for some of the people who are running for office who are your colleagues in the party today?
They are
based on what you've just said.
Yes, there are people I would vote for. There are others I would not vote for. Even me, I look at who is this, who is that, can I vote for that one, can I vote for that one? But having said all that, it's good to understand that it also takes time. It takes time for us, the public, to understand us, the leaders. The public takes it now, me, I sit on both ends. It takes time for people to understand the leaders. Like my brother keeps on saying here, being a religious leader, it takes time for people to know the real Bishop Margaret Wanjiru. They have to sit down, listen to my preaching, see where I'm taking them, evaluate my teaching, and see, yes, this is the right track to go. So it takes time for people to understand the character of leaders. And that is why these 5 years gives us an opportunity to change and to remove those that we probably made a mistake in the past.
I think we've spoken a lot about corruption, and it's always touted as one of the main issues that we have. I mean, it's a big thing. But then I would argue that service is also another aspect of things that happen in Nairobi that we just don't see. How do you think you can improve the service aspect?
Oh, service is my line, and I love just doing service delivery to the people. I have a vision for Nairobi Mpya. I have a vision for where things are working in Nairobi. I have a vision for where we have a clean Nairobi. My goodness. You know what?
Bishop,
yes.
You know, when you speak vision, are you political vision or
Both. No, not spiritual vision. Somebody's being too spiritual for me yesterday. I didn't see a vision in the night.
No, not last night.
I just wanted to get some clarity.
No, it's not a vision I saw in the night.
Okay.
It's a burden in my heart.
Okay.
A burden in my heart that Nairobi has to change. A burden in my heart that things can get better in Nairobi. Nairobi, we have some areas that are very clean, but yet we have some areas that are filthy, really filthy. You wonder, how do people breathe in this place? And we are saying we have two sides of Nairobi, whereas we have some very good school infrastructure, while in other places, we don't even have a public school. So for us to create that equation, that equality amongst the people, we need to be able to give service delivery. Now, service delivery, if we go to garbage, one thing that I always say about garbage, the garbage business must be returned to the youth in the estates and in the villages, in the slums. The people that know where this garbage come from. Then the county can collect the garbage at certain points. Now, those points where garbage is being collected by the county should have dustbins, huge dustbins where this garbage can be dumped. We must stop this habit of dumping garbage on the streets, and everywhere we find some space, you just find garbage there. Now, having said that, so why do we have a problem with garbage in Nairobi? Because we have a very good blueprint on environment, but implementation is lacking. Then we look at the business of garbage as money-making business, not a service delivery. We need to really change our mindset. The next leadership must give service delivery to Nairobi. Now, minus service delivery, I cannot be part of the team. For me, service must be delivered to the people.
What do you think? I mean, even as we're winding down on this, Bishop, what do you think about people who come to a leader who has made them promises before an election, and after an election then has seen that they're not doing what they said they would do in terms of accountability?
Yes.
What do you think ought to happen to such an individual?
If a leader promised and they did not, let's say a leader promised 100% and they did not deliver. In management, we say you do not deliver even 80 to 85%. If even in management you set goals and you are not able to deliver 80 to 80%, you should not be elected. You should not be re-elected. But so the leaders who did not deliver in the last election should not be re-elected in this election.
Everybody's telling us about 100 days. In the first 100 days, I will do this, that, or the other thing. If you see in the first 100 days that they've not done what they said they would do, is that not enough time for you to say, okay, we can put forth something that will recall this individual because they're not doing what they said they ought?
I think it would be very good if Kenyans can learn how to recall. It would really help us. It would help the leaders to perform. Because also these leaders, sometimes, 100 days are good. But first of all, with all the fatigue and weariness of elections, you will need about 3 days to recover. So 100 days minus 3. So let's give them 97 days. Or let's call it just simple 90 days. Because you also need to settle into office, look at the systems, get orientation. There is that settling in. So let's give it 90 days. The first 90 days, a leader should be able to show and to tell the public, this is the direction we are going. An element that has been ignored by most of the leaders, and I'm looking at the county government of Nairobi, and I will make sure that this is not ignored, is that our constitution gives us the authority to do public participation. That has been totally ignored by most government agencies. Another area that I want to see improvement is on the monitoring and evaluation. If we have monitoring and evaluation agencies, why don't we monitor our progress or even our weaknesses for that matter? Why don't we monitor where we have come from and where we are going? What have we done? What haven't we done? If monitoring and evaluation was being done well, we would not be having the shortcomings that we have.
That we are having. All right, at this point, we would like to say goodbye to our audience on Katie and Home. Well, not like to say, we should stay longer, but the conversations continue on SpiceFM, and as we come back and take our last words from senatorial candidate Bishop Margaret Wanjiru. So coming around to 3 minutes to 9 o'clock, we've been having a conversation this hour with UDA senatorial candidate Bishop Margaret Wanjiru. And even as we are coming to the end of this conversation, 7 days to the election, people are still, teeter-tottering. Some have made the decision already about what it's going to be. What would you say is absolutely pertinent for Kenyans to remember from this day going forward?
Going forward, first of all, Kenyans must purpose that there will be no violence. Kenyans must demand. I'm saying the security agencies must act. There should be no violence anywhere in Kenya. If there is any violence, then it means that the government has failed us, not IEBC. IBEC will not fail us on when it comes to security. The security agencies must provide security, that every person votes, and after voting, go home. There is no hanging around. There is no sitting around the voting, the polling stations. Go home. Let the agents that have been appointed by the parties and by the candidates do their work. Let the IEBC do their work. But the police, the government agencies on security must perform. Perform and perform well. Otherwise, wasituongeleshe after elections. Like Nairobi now, I can tell you where are the hotspots. Because, rigging thrives in confusion. Rigging thrives. Even corruption thrives in confusion. So they cause some confusion so that they can rig, so that they can steal. If we have peace and everybody votes under a peaceful atmosphere, believe you me, nobody will be rigged in or rigged out. Indeed. Everybody, all the leaders will win, and it will be a free and fair election. So I find it very unfortunate and very bad for us to demand that IBC should deliver a free and fair election while we are not protecting them. Indeed. We need to protect IEBC by giving them enough security.
Good words to end on. Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, a senatorial candidate with the UDA party, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Conversations continue, folks. It's 9 o'clock.
Good.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Ethiopia's Crunch has warned those distributing leaflets with demands for this election, saying that those involved will be dealt with in accordance to the law. He says every Kenyan has the right to vote for any leader he wants, as well as to campaign anywhere in the country. He says the Interior Ministry has intelligence reports about the people involved in distributing the leaflets, maintaining that investigations are ongoing. There have been reports that leaflets have been distributed in Uasin Gishu County. Koto Secretary General Francis Atwoli, while on a campaign tour in the Rift Valley region, urged residents to come out in large numbers and vote without being coerced. Nakuru County Commissioner Mbogai Rioba has warned politicians seeking elective posts to keep off dirty politics and embrace peace during their campaigns ahead of the elections next week. He expressed concern over the previous electioneering periods in the country, where peace has hardly been found its place, citing the 2007 post-election violence as a nightmare. Up to date, the administrator was speaking when he flagged off the Kitui County Women Peace Walk exercise dubbed Election Bila Noma in an effort to steer up peace among residents in the county. Flagging off the peace walk outside his office, Rioba accompanied his county security team and reaffirmed the government's commitment to ensure peace during and after the elections. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has ordered all schools to allow their students to wear the different religious regalia like hijabs and veils. His directive comes after reports that some head teachers and principals have been sending students home because of donning their religious attires. Magoha further urging the next government to allow him finish constructing the CBC classrooms if he will not have finished the exercise by the election date.
By and large, in terms of the second phase, which was 3,500, we intend to complete most of them by election time. Should there be a small balance, we shall be bold enough, since I am not a politician, and you can judge me on that one. Only God knows who will be the president. I don't know. And whoever comes will be my commander-in-chief. So I hope that before that person is sworn in, you can allow me to finish the classrooms, because the children will still be there, and they'll go to school in January.
Kenya's inflation rate in the month of July has risen to the highest level since 2017, touching 8.3% from 7.9% recorded in June. Kenya National Bureau of Statistics says the increase was due to a rise in food and non-alcoholic beverages index, which saw 15.3% in year to the period under review. Retail prices for key food items have shot up sharply according to latest data by KNBS. According to the Bureau, carrots, loose maize grain and non-aromatic white rice has their prices rise by 13%, 9.7% and 4.2% respectively. Price increment were also noted on beans, green grams, sukuma wiki, beef and cabbages. The government, through the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, has officiated the construction of a software factory in Bomet County, estimated cost 100 billion shillings. Through a speech that was read on his behalf of the Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of ICT, John Musheru, by Board Chairperson ICT Authority, Professor Frederick Owino, during the groundbreaking ceremony of the factory, the CS said that the initiative is aimed at bridging the digital gap in the country. The CS further stated that these will provide all Kenyans with equal access to ICT, as well as opportunities for business and wealth creation. And UN Chief Antonio Guterres said he was outraged after 2 people were killed and several others injured when UN peacekeepers opened fire during an incident in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo on the Uganda border. The UN force MONUSCO admitted that some of its peacekeepers had opened fire for unexplained reasons, adding that arrests had already been made. Guterres was saddened and dismayed to learn of the shooting. A video of the incident shared on social media showed men, at least one in police uniform and another in army uniform, advancing towards the immobilized UN convoy behind a closed barrier in Kasindi. The town is in eastern DR Congo, being territory on the border with Uganda. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Traffic this morning, what does it look like a few minutes after 9 o'clock? It does look pretty busy, and we're looking at Langata Road, which is still doing the thing, trying to get into the city. That's quite still packed. And we're also looking at traffic coming out of Westlands a little bit here and there. Also, coming off of Thika Superhighway, looking a little bit better than it has about an hour ago, but not too crazy. Still in traffic hour, looks like it might come to a head at about 9:30 or so, but we'll be here to see what that looks like at that time. What's going on where you are? Talk to us, SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
It is 7 minutes after 9 o'clock this morning, and Kenya's biggest conversation continues, getting into the fourth and final hour of the show this Monday. Quite a lot that we're taking into perspective today, just 7 days to the elections. As we kick off this hour, our guests for the hour are in the studio, but just before we introduce them, we're going to hear today's proverb.
Good morning, boys and girls.
The proverb of the day is brought to you by Aquafresh Fresh Gel.
Don't buy salt if you haven't licked it yet. That's a proverb from the DRC. All right, good. You've responded. What do you think?
I just thought of myself at Carrefour.
Yes.
I know. An image of you poking things.
What's happening?
Let me lick it first.
Yes.
I was like, how do you unbundle it? Then you lick, then you're like, okay, now I'll buy it.
Oh, I won't.
Oh, I won't. But I guess it has a deeper meaning.
That's the beauty of a proverb. What do you think?
I'm thinking about it in the social sense.
Like in relationships, like before I buy this salt, what am I gonna lick now?
Oh wow!
Okay. Yeah. How am I gonna sample before I make the buying decision? It's a very risky proverb. I wonder what informed it though.
Well, you gotta
it's like just test the waters before you
jump in. Put your foot in, kind of thing, before you get in, and know how deep something is.
Yeah.
You see, whenever you talk of proverbs, there's an element of tradition behind it, and people assume that what they have in an urban area is what everybody else has. Like when say I'm going to buy soap, you assume it's in a supermarket. You're going to buy oil, you assume it's pre-packed.
Now, but this was in the open market.
Yes, it's in the open market. Those things are not sold quite the same way, but it's the same thing.
Same concept.
Yeah.
Before you buy salt.
Yeah, taste it.
Brush your teeth twice a day with Aqua Fresh Gel, the secret to long-lasting fresh breath, strong teeth, and healthy gums.
All right, we've seen you, we've heard your voices, and we're very glad to have both of you in the studio this morning. Lydia Mavia is a policy advisor, and Rita Oyear, a communication strategist. And it was interesting because just, some time back we said, and I've seen it on the socials as well, we've never been on the same side. And so here we are, still great friends, but still on the opposite sides. And it's very good to have both of you in the hot seats this morning. Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning, Lydia.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rita.
Good morning.
Karibuni sana. We're getting into the conversation. We're getting into the last stretch, the final miles of this journey that has been campaigning and mudslinging and insults and, all sorts of things being thrown at us, promises being made, hopes being set, peace being called for, so much happening, and then just 7 days towards that. And today we're asking our question, what is the state of the race, or looking at the state of the race so far? And then what then can it inform Kenyans of what will happen come Tuesday next week? And even as we talk about this, let's start off with you, Lydia. What do you see from where we've come from, where we are, and where the country is going in the next 7 days? What do you see to be the state of things with the elections or the campaigns before we get to the elections?
I see people who are very anxious. The campaigns are very anxious. They are hopeful, but they are not sure that they've done everything that they should have done to come. There's a sense of you get a feeling that they are dashing to the finish line, like, how many more rallies can we do? How many places have we not gone? Where do we need to revisit? And you can see the schedules of both candidates are fairly intense up to the 6th of August. And so they're throwing everything that they can at this thing. They don't want to leave any little effort they can add. They don't want to leave it undone. For the country, the sense I get when I speak to my friends and just people, everyone is just like, can this election come? We vote, it finishes. Like, can we be done? Can we be done and continue with our lives? A little more cynical, group of people will tell you that this thing is going on all the way up to November. So we won't be done with it just in a day. There's likely to be contestation, at least up to the Supreme Court level. So you can expect this to elongate or continue for like a month or so. So that's the sense that I get from where I sit. And there is this charge now to make sure that people have their agents ready, agents that they can trust, because this election will come down to the wire and it will be about those votes that are counted in those polling stations. Nobody wants to have those votes counted and they're not sure what is happening in that room. So the issue of agents is going to occupy both campaigns this particular week
quite intensely. And I think the other thing is, and this is something that I know I've picked up from the Azimio group, is to really communicate to the voters that Baba is not running on ODM, on the voting on the ballot paper. It's not ODM. It's Azimio la Umoja. So those now last minute communication elements where you really need to tick those boxes and tell people you're going to find me there. There's going to be blue. There's not going to be orange. And this is what you should expect, so that you don't go there looking for Baba. You're looking for the orange fruit. You don't find it and you're like, what's going on? So this last minute communication elements, I think, is what will also be happening a lot this week. Yeah. From where you sit, Rita, what do you see? How do you see things and playing out over the next 7 days?
I'll just speak from where Lydia has stopped. The issue of communication right now seems to be the biggest. There's less focus on going to the ground, but more on how you communicate on the ground, because unlike previous elections, this was a bit the passion and the energy and even the funds that have gone into this campaign are not as much as previous two campaign cycles. So right now you can see the communication changing a bit. You can see the tone. You can see the choice of words. You can see the targets changing. Of course, there's a bit of concern. You can see propaganda kicking up a bit more, because our candidates are trying to rally people to the vote. This is the get out the vote period, because someone can have been enjoying your message, but they will not show up. And that is quite typical of especially the young voters. They might not show up. So people are trying to rally the passion, giving the voters a reason, whether it's the reason against the other candidate, come vote because we cannot have so-and-so in, or come and vote for me because I have this to offer. That is the communication challenge that is there. And like she has said, Kenya Kwanza has a different set of problem. They have to be educated that when you go to the ballot, it is not Kenya Kwanza you will find UDA, which is the very opposite statement of what Azimio are trying to communicate, which is you will not find ODM, you will find Azimio. Right. So it's a very, we've not quite been in this scenario before. The other thing that is very unique, and what I can see from both politicians and the voters, is it seems like no one clearly will have the 50+1. The polls have indicated this, variously different polls. Unlike other elections, there's no clear winner this time round. It doesn't seem from all reasonable analysis that we'll have a 50+1. So that raises a lot of questions, both on the political side and even on IEBC side. Like we had the SCOC last time, and the lawyers are preparing for any Supreme Court. This time we might have a unique problem of nobody getting a 50+1. So how are we even prepared as a country for a potential runoff? Because we might be hoping, and the voters are very tired, like Lydia saying, they just want these elections to go. But what if we have a runoff? Then the elections are not going. And now we are in November. Then are people psychologically prepared? The other thing that I can see the voters not doing very well is they're not primed to start disconnecting emotionally with their candidates. Because I might have felt this way about a certain person. What if they get the seat? Then what happens to me? I think the media and a lot of the analysts need to start priming the voters to have that emotional separation from their candidate. Because the person you might have been decampaigning might get the seat, but you need to be emotionally and mentally prepared for those type of outcomes.
To do what in this case, Rita? To let them go. Let them go in the sense that they've been with you campaigning, they've been speaking to you on a regular, and then if they do get, elected into office, you're not going to see them as often as you were. You were not going to be able to rock up to them and say, well, hello, here's this need or the other.
The game changes completely. Proximity changes, And I keep saying in this social media era, proximity is social capital. But proximity is going to change. I'm not going to knock on Lydia's door, for example, and she can pick her call, because now she needs me. I can call Sakaja today and he'll pick my call because I'm a potential vote. But when they get to that office, That's one aspect. Proximity changes. But also they might not get to that office. Then what happens to you who had invested all your emotions in that support and you fought with your friends and all that? So what happens to you? So there's a kind of a psychological and emotional preparation that we have to prime the voters for.
And close to 50% of the country's population will be in that position, whichever we choose to look at it.
Whichever way you choose to look at it. Yeah.
But I do disagree, though, on the issue of the runoff, because it would take a good percentage of the vote being pulled away from the two candidates for you to then anticipate a runoff. And I don't think that there is a third horse, as it were, a third or a fourth horse. I think whatever bubble Wajakoya came in has already burst. I think once he said those fishy things, hyena things, and I think that bubble just completely burst.
Be surprised at the number of people who
they're joking. They're not going to vote for him. I don't think that he'll get a significant amount of votes, and so therefore it's highly unlikely, because ultimately our vote is very, if it's not tribal, the only other dynamic that we have in this election is this hustler, class voting issue that might happen. So I don't see a runoff. I see either one of them might take it. I see, of course, myself. I see Raila becoming president with Martha Karua as deputy.
You say that with some mirth. Is it because of the person sitting to your left?
It's because I know. She's like, before she went to Safina with Jimmy, she was in UDA. And I know in her heart of hearts, she prefers UDA. That UDA win. She's a clause. She's in Safina, but with her claws are still, her umbilical cord is attached to UDA. So she would prefer that UDA wins, and I would prefer that Azimio wins, especially because of the possibility of having the first woman president. So I like I said, I don't see there being a runoff. And then secondly, I do not anticipate that Kenyans have the same kind of connection with their candidates as before. There's something that happened that was traumatic but also good. The campaign between Uhuru and Raila in 2017 was so intense. We were so invested. We were at war, literally. And she was on the ODM side, which is why I'm like, really.
Talk about musical chairs, ladies.
Do you know? The family meetings that we broke up, the quarreling and the walking out of rooms and the banging of doors that happened. And then now she's like, oh, who is Baba? Baba is bad. I'm like, hey.
How do you explain these changes?
So this is the thing. There was this intense campaign in 2017, and then a handshake happened, and everybody's like, "What are you talking about? All the posts what are you? All these things I said, all these things I wrote on my Facebook, they no longer make sense." So there's the sense where Kenyans are like, what?
We're done.
Done. I could throw everything at this thing as much as I want, but these people, once the election is over, anything could happen. So you are finding that there's some kind of moderation of the intensity with which Kenyans have engaged politically. There's a sense of pragmatism you get from a lot of people, like, mwenye tu atachukua, ni sawa, I'm supporting this person, but just in case it doesn't work, I kind of get it. After all, Manda go give us the words for this. Tunazieka kwa lungs.
But the thing is, if you look at the history of this country, before even the word coalition was invented in political terms, the Kenyan political class have been having handshakes right from independence.
That is true. Because, again, ultimately, politics is about numbers. And you have to find the formula that gives you the numbers. But this handshake was not to inform rallying of numbers. The agenda was not quite explained. The benefit was not quite explained. A lot of people.
What would you have considered an adequate explanation?
Like she says, a lot of people had done a lot of things, including swearing in a people's president, where their lives were literally on the line. You had people doing the march from the airport when Baba came back and having tear gas and all that. all that only for someone to wake up and go have this unexplained handshake. You have to, I feel sometimes you have to have a level of accountability for your voters. And a lot of that is missing. And for Raila, this has been my disappointment after the handshake. The level of accountability to the voters. The man who said he was pro something suddenly has become so different. Even BBI, there was no sufficient public participation. Just a minute. There was not sufficient public participation. A man who would never, in his right mind, not attend a public debate because he values involving voters, suddenly has this refreshing way of looking at things. Like, I will not do that because of... It is really not...
Rita, there's an explanation that has been given for all this.
Which is?
For the better of the citizens, for peace. I've heard that explanation said many times. Seeking to find a way through which Kenyans can live in peace. The statement is the country being larger than any one of us and finding a common ground where that can be.
No.
You find that an inadequate explanation.
City, that might have been what they told you. I'll say two things. What they told me was different because I actually sat with them and told them, because I was de-campaigning BBI, she knows. And they tried to explain to me, it's an aspiration for a more perfect union. That was the explanation I was given by the ODM. Democracy, you can seek a more perfect union, which is, I think, Obama also tried to pursue that. You can seek it as politicians. But democracy dictates that you give people and your supporters, you see now you're talking about peace. For me, peace is a consequence of acting a certain way or doing certain things right. Peace cannot be an end. We are flagging peace and not doing the things, the right things behind it.
But
still, a more perfect union is a good aspiration for Raila and Uhuru. Where was the more perfect union when people were going on the streets? When you're swearing presidents, when you're saying, resist? Where was all that?
So let me ask the question and pose it in this manner, is that, Rita, would it have made more sense? And then also for you, Lydia, saying on the other side now, would it have made more sense if Raila Odinga, at the point where he was making or, coming together in this handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, come and say, look, guys, this is where we are. This is what we have been through. Me as the leader in the opposition, etc., and we have decided to do this. Do you think that it would have been better if he took a moment outside of the handshake and explained to people the reasons why he had arrived at the decision that he did? Would it have made more sense?
It would have made more sense. It would have also been, it also needs to have aligned consistently with what he had been pushing for. This was very varied. This man, you have been swearing him in just a few weeks before. And then he wakes up in the dark. In fact, I think you've heard Jimmy say this severally. His advisors were not there. His campaigners were not there. People who put their... Up to now, City is saying something about peace. I don't know where he had that. But I know from the horse's mouth and from the internal team that had to be explained to, it's a whole different narrative. It has still not come to light what exactly they were trying to do.
So this is the thing with these candidates, is that they have supporters like Rita who hold them hostage. Right? And then they are not able to move the country forward.
How do they hold them hostage exactly?
They hold them hostage because they're like, to be kupigania, so huwezi enda kuwa na amani na uhuru. As we are for, you saw yourself in, you're the people's president, as we don't care. We go to the street, we boycott products because apana that person.
Because you have asked us too.
Listen, national leadership behoves a person of the stature of Raila Odinga to literally leave his followers behind and elevate the conversation and then come collect you. Now, I do agree that to some extent, both leaders could have done a better job of carrying their supporters along.
Of being accountable to the citizens.
That is the price that is now being paid politically for not doing it at that time. And this is how it's playing out. For Raila, you're finding that a bit of his core base, has sort of disintegrated because they didn't have clarity, and he's lost a bit of his political support. And you've seen, I think, people like Mudavadi walking away. You've seen a bit of,
but also all the blocks, but also not just individuals, but whole blocks. He's lost a bit of Western, a bit of Coast. He's lost quite a bit of his.
A bit is not whole, and it's very little, and it will not be consequential. But this is the thing I wanted. This is the thing. Yes. This is the thing, though. They're both paying the price, because also for the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, you've seen what a whole section of Jubilee walked off. And that has resulted in the dilapidation of the Jubilee Party.
That is why I'm saying the fortunes for Jubilee Party might be accountability to the public is important. Accountability and participation is important.
Lydia.
Okay, so go ahead, SCT.
Lydia, Rita, this handshake that we speak of is spoken of as though it represents everything that could possibly have gone wrong and went wrong by some people. And from where the two of you sit, was it the culmination of things that had been going on and we were unaware of? Or was it the beginning of the end of something that we had previously thought was one way? Or was it the beginning of something completely new that we had never anticipated?
First of all, this handshake was a very unique handshake. I have been in active politics since I was a student. And that was, I'd call it maybe 20 years of active political life. And we have never, ever been on the same side with Raila and his supporters. So my entire political experience, my internship in politics, my exercise of political campaigns, my exercise in political leadership, all that, I have never interacted or been on the same side with the Raila people, ever. And so that means that how my ideas have been shaped, politically, and all the people who are like me, have been fundamentally anti-Raila, you can imagine. And then here you come, 20 years later, and suddenly I'm supposed to now look at this person as an amenable, and this is only unique to Raila, because Mudavadi, there was dealings with, I think Mudavadi, when he was running with that party called was it UDF? What party was it? Okay,
and so the party and continue the story.
Exactly. Yes. So what you noticed is that this handshake was fundamentally different, and there has been resistance within the basis of these two movements to this change of this person is suddenly supposed to be a friend. What are you talking about?
I like that Lydia is very young, though my dalliance with politics is about the same years, but we have gone, as Raila supporters, we have gone with him everywhere. Even when he was with Moi, when he was with Uhuru, and all these people have been on the same side.
Rita, with Moi, did he consult anybody when he moved? Did he consult anybody?
But he explained
did he hold a rally?
Okay, it's not a rally, but he explained himself. Raila has been very good at working with advisors, and two, making sure he carries his people. When he joined Moi, he did not have this fallout that you're talking about. What was different about it? But to your question, which has not been answered, you're asking if this was new or a continuation of something.
Yes, or the beginning of something absolutely new.
No, there are two dynamics here, or rather, and there are three key players here. There's Raila, there's Uhuru, and there's Ruto. Even as we talk about the handshake, we cannot leave the narrative of the DP Ruto out. Because again, as he says, it's this handshake that birthed the executive order.
But is that really the truth of the matter? That's what I'm actually asking.
But you see, an executive order is something that, it's not a secret. Lydia works in government. An executive order is not a secret. When your boss tells you, now this is my executive order number 1, this is how we shall behave as partners. You shall step aside. I am pursuing legacy. This is what you want to do. So, in my thinking, as someone who has worked in the Raila campaign and witnessed the handshake and moved on to a different campaign, which was the Ruto campaign, and then moved forward, I would think Uhuru was trying to be smart. And him trying to be smart did not start with the handshake. Even during the 2017, Lydia is smiling because she knows it's true. Even during the campaign in 2017, I cannot tell you that Uhuru and Ruto never spoke. I mean, Uhuru and Raila never spoke. And politicians behave differently. So this plan of them coming together and setting Ruto aside did not start with a handshake.
Okay,
it was preconceived while the first term was ongoing, and they found a way to execute it and shove off this gentleman.
That is one narrative.
Let's just breathe for a minute and take a break, and then we'll come back and continue, because I know, Cici, hold on to that. Don't lose that thought. It's 28 minutes to 10 o'clock. Conversation continues with Lydia Mavia and Rita Oyer in the studio today, and looking at the state of the 2022 race. We'll take a break and take a look at weather and traffic. But got to remind you, Pocket by Mozilla allows you to store all your useful information, stuff that you read on a daily basis, right? And you have a million tabs open, not necessary with this app that you can download on the Google Play Store or Apple App Store and save your information. You can come back and look at it. It's automatically updated. You can have it there. You can create collections and look at a lot of nifty stuff that's happening that you're interested in. It's Pocket by Mozilla, downloadable today.
Wachana na William Ruto. I supported you when you needed a man to support you. If you do not want to support me, leave me alone.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two, or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi Lawokov?
I can't say it very well.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Sunny conditions in some parts, but mostly cloudy in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 22, and we'll see highs of 22 as well, and a mostly cloudy Nakuru at 18. It's 15 and raining in Nyeri, highs of 20. We'll see highs of 19 in Eldoret, where it's raining as well. 23 degrees and sunny conditions in Mombasa. We'll see light rain continuing in Malindi, highs of 28, and light rain in Kisumu at 20. It's 20 and cloudy in Kakamega, highs of 24. 23 and sunny conditions in Kampala. We'll see highs of 29 in Dar es Salaam, and it's raining in Lagos at 24, 10 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, and we'll see 20 and cloudy in Kinshasa, highs of 29, 34 and sunny in Beijing going into Monday evening. It's 21 and partly sunny in Paris, highs of 28, and 26 will be the high in a cloudy London at 18. It's 23 degrees and raining New York, still not Sunday night coming into Monday. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
Looking much better on Langata Road this morning. It won't be too bad as you're getting towards that junction. Coming off Uhuru Highway as well, it's all right. Slow traffic moving, but we shouldn't have too much of an issue, at least not for now. All right, so we're looking at some action moving through towards Westlands and then out towards the city. But again, nothing too crazy. All right, we'll keep an eye on things through the morning. Talk to us, SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Do you sometimes come across all this interesting and amazing content online, and before you know it, you're 10 tabs in? Or sometimes your browser refreshes itself and you lose that video or write-up you were keen on. In these moments, I bet you wish you could store this content somewhere so it's accessible to you when you need it or want to share it. Well, you can. It is as simple as putting it in your pocket. Thanks to Pocket by Mozilla, you can curate what you love, save it to your list, and access it even when you're offline. It gets better. You have the option of listening to your favorite articles, and before you ask, of course you can watch video content as well as even when offline. Filter the best of the internet and download Pocket by Mozilla now. Available on iOS and Android. Stori zetu kikwetu.
Business news with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Safaricom announced its decision to change guard at the helm of its board, a move that would see its founding CEO Michael Joseph end his 2-year tenure as the company's board chairman. As Michael Joseph moves on as the chair of the board, Safaricom welcomed a man who has made a name in Kenya's corporate world, Mr. John Ngumi. Ngumi brings in experience and expertise from the corporate world as he is expected to steer the telecommunication company to greater heights. The cost of living in the country has remained at a 5-year high as the rate of inflation in July climbed to 8.3% from 7.8% on rising food costs. New data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics Consumer Price Index shows food prices swelled by 15.3% year over year in the month and by 11% from June. Food commodities registering notable price increases in the month, including carrots, maize, rice, beans, sukuma wiki, and cabbages. And the steady fall in world commodity prices has signaled an ease to domestic cost pressures to paint hope on the cost of living canvas. The gradual decline in the prices of major imports, including fuel, edible oils, and wheat, lays the foundation for near-term relief for the Kenyan consumers. Data from the World Bank commodity prices, for the instance, shows the prices of palm oil, wheat, and DAP fertilizer has fallen by 12.6%, 12%, and 7% respectively between May and June. And an East African Breweries PLC report shows that the East African region recorded an increase in uptake of various alcoholic drinks in the financial year ended June 30th, 2022 compared to the previous year. In the report, the brewery revealed that citizens from the 3 East African member states, that is Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda, spent 109.4 billion shillings to buy various alcoholic brands it produces. According to the company, this amount is a 27% increase in the net sale recorded in the previous year. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's 21 minutes to 10 o'clock.
94.4.
All right. So even when I think things continue. All right. Jumping back into the conversation. If you're just joining us, Lydia Mathia and Rita Oyer with us in the studio today. And we're looking at 2022, the race to the end. Just before we went to that break, CT, you were going to go.
You know, what we're discussing is interesting because it gives you an academic perspective of what politics is like. Now, I'm going to provide a more cynical perspective. And I'm going to ask my question from that perspective. You cannot look at politics and not look at the politicians and who they are and what they've stood for in the past and what they are in the present. You also can't look at just the entity, I'm using the word entity, that you refer to as politics, and why it is people go about doing the things that they do. That they want to help the citizenry, that is a constant narrative, even when they have no intention whatsoever. That they want to be able to be remembered well, that's also another narrative. That they want peace, I believe in it, because in the absence of that, they can't thrive and they can't do the very thing that they genuinely want to do. Okay? That I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Why I went back into history was, every time we talk about a handshake, even with independence itself, is people who are on opposing sides seemingly coming together. We've seen it at so many phases of our history that I'm surprised that when you had this 2018 handshake, it became an issue. It just followed a long trajectory of handshakes that we've had before. The thing that it did, a position was taken and people were given an opportunity to fall where they may, to choose the path that they'd like to choose. Now, this election, in my opinion, the uniqueness of it is this. We've never seen a situation where you have a presidency. We've always had a president and a vice president. And we've never seen a presidency where the two principals in that presidency seem to be at odds and they continue being at odds. And then a third party enters, someone who was in the opposition comes in. And then narratives change, and what we hear, in my mind, are very confusing narratives that move you away from the real issue. And the question is, what really are we dealing with, or what were we dealing with? When you talk legacy, what are you talking about? Projects. That's what the government's supposed to do. When you're talking about moving forward, what are you talking about? What are the realities of our politics?
The reality of our politics is this. You have a president who has a very ambitious deputy president. And he knows that, because he's an experienced politician, so he knows for him to be able to navigate the next 5 years, he needs a serious buffer against the onslaught that is coming, so that he's able to focus on his work, and so that he's not held hostage or blackmailed.
Why would he be held hostage, and what would hold him hostage is the president?
So he decides answering this question the way it's supposed to ask. The question you asked.
Rita, hold on. You're not going to come to you, Rita, and you can answer it in the way that you feel.
Lydia is taking us round in circles.
Lydia, just go ahead with the
Let
answer.
Lydia take us round in circles.
Let me take us round.
And then you take us round your
I
circles.
might get to the bullseye after I go round in the circle. So this is the thing, though. The president wanted a buffer, okay? Away from all that language around peace and whatnot, the most important consequence of the handshake is the parliamentary backup that the president got for his agenda. Okay? So that just because you are running for president in 2022 does not mean that you're going to have my hands tied and blackmail me for the next 5 years.
You've used that word 3 times now. Blackmail.
This is the experience of the first term from what we are able to...
What is blackmail? When someone blackmails you,
you see,
they know something that everyone shouldn't know.
That is why you need to give me a chance to talk, because Lydia
we are coming.
And still take us round in circles.
Blackmail
Go ahead and
can
finish
be
with that point,
explicit.
Lydia.
Blackmail can be explicit or implicit. Okay.
So this
like
one was,
me, I feel
was this one
blackmailed.
explicit or implicit?
It was like me, I feel very blackmailed by, for example, my nanny. Okay, I give her off for 3 days. Then
she's supposed to come back.
She comes back on the 4th day. She knows I'll not fire her because I need her, because she's the one with the bond with my little boy. So that is what happens. That is what happened in the first term.
Fine.
It was implicit blackmail. The president wanted to disentangle himself from it, and for him to disentangle himself from it, he needed a political buffer.
Backup. All right.
The political
Lydia.
buffer.
Parliamentary now.
Okay, Rita.
So this is the thing. You've asked a very pertinent question. The back end of politics always boils down to resources. And that is why when you hear Lydia talk about blackmail, talk about parliamentary backup, when they start harping on corruption, when they start pointing fingers, it boils down to the money. All these shenanigans you're seeing, including this parliamentary support, is so that people access public funds. All this fight is all about the money. And someone should ask you if, like you're saying, development a government should do.
That's their job.
Yes, that is their job. So why are they fighting about the money? In whose interest is it to have a government that pushes a PFM Act that is anti the Constitution? Why is it that they were so comfortable as Jubilee in the first term to have a Finance Management Act that is explicitly against the Constitution, that we are getting debt from this country and paying suppliers directly, and then we have things like Aror Kimwarer that nobody can account for. It all boils down
Let her continue,
to money, and we have to accept that. It is not about love, it is not about peace, it's just about how much can someone give me space to access the money and not blackmail me through parliament so that I get my stuff done. Even this, when you hear someone like Ruto say,
I agree
we have
about money.
No, just a minute. When you hear this particular president has been suffering this question of legacy. And you see, legacy because I have not done this thing, I'm continuing with Kibaki's projects. And then suddenly he's commissioning all these projects that are out of budget. They're unapproved. They have nothing. I mean, I keep asking, and forgive me if I don't sound very patriotic. What was the emergency and urgency behind Uhuru Gardens Museum? Why was it such a crisis? What were we chasing as a country comparative to all the issues we have? Why was that a crisis? And that it had to be done out of budget and out of approval.
You know, Rita, for a moment
so
there...
at the bottom of it, at the bottom of all this drama...
No, actually, no. What Rita has done... I'm listening to Rita and it's like I'm listening to Jimmy Wanjigi.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Okay, no, that is not true. But
let me tie this up for her.
Let me say that there are billions of unbudgeted for projects.
It is not to say that what you're saying doesn't have merit.
It has merit.
You say that you sound like Jimmy Wanjigi.
Yes, I did not say it doesn't have merit.
Okay, so if we tie this together now, I mean, what we've seen over the last couple of days, then is a tiff between the president and the deputy president, another one then being escalated on a national level. And many would argue that a lot of these things that you're talking about then would be elements towards the tiff. What are your thoughts on that? And does it then bear any influence on the decisions that people are going to make come 7 days from today?
So this is the thing. People go for power so that they can control the distribution of resources. That is the whole definition of politics. So they do want access to resources, but it's not for the purposes that Rita is saying, that people just want money so that they can accumulate. I do believe that the pursuit of power is so that people can be able to determine how those resources are going to be distributed. So I'm the one who is going to call the shots as to whether which road is going to be prioritized over which road, which dam over which dam. And that is what the fight is always about. And that is legitimate political
and that is the bottom
contestation. Line. Now, about the tiff between the president and the deputy president, I will tell you this. Uhuru Kenyatta is not a confrontational politician. He has never been a confrontational politician. So this is, first of all, very out of character for the president. He is not a person who is unable, as it were, or unwilling to close ranks, as we have seen before. He was able to close ranks with the Ruto way back when there was the formation of the initial partnership between URP and TNA, despite the history, of the post-election violence and all that, and their communities having very deep-seated feelings against each other. Uhuru Kenyatta has been able to close ranks with Kibaki, despite standing with Moi against Kibaki, when Kibaki was coming into office. So he has not just the experience of reaching across, but he has that pragmatism inbuilt deep within him. This is a man who gave up the presidency to Mudavadi in 2013 because he was convinced by people close to him that he would occasion post-election violence. But the reason why that it didn't last, because some of us held him hostage and conspired to make sure that he stays on the ticket. He had walked away from that ticket, but we had to get him back because some of us believed too intensely in his dream. So this is the thing.
Yeah.
I am convinced that there is a timing problem with Uhuru's capacity to close ranks with Ruto. I believe that whatever agenda he has to serve or has to pursue at this time cannot allow him to close ranks with Ruto. Because if he wanted to, he has the history to be able to do it. And I believe that those ranks will be closed after this election, sometime after this election, for purposes of whatever the purposes of the handshake will have been served, and so he will be able to close ranks with Ruto and he has said it in Sagana. In Sagana 3, he said it.
Yes,
he said that wacha kwanza, tufanye hii mambo na huu mzee, alafu pale mbele, once we see that this guy is okay. And he's looking like he can organize himself nicely, we can support him for subsequent election. So I'm sure the reconciliation between Uhuru and Ruto is somewhere in the future.
It's going to happen. What are your thoughts on that,
My
Rita?
thoughts on this, and I really like Lydia because she's an honest person. She's talked about they held Uhuru hostage in 2013 when he was supposed to give whatever it is until Madimoni happened to Mudavadi.
I organized
Ruto, yes, yes, you did. And then Ruto also alleged in 2017 this gentleman didn't want to go for the second election until Ruto held him hostage. And now the handshake happened. I'm assuming Raila is holding him hostage. But now that we are here, the thing that...
Why didn't you go back into history and say in 2007, Kibaki also, it is said,
held him hostage.
Also wanted to give up the presidency.
Maybe the best president is one who is not...
but it's still... but you see... what I'm trying to say is, my biggest challenge with Uhuru, and I'm saying this because as an individual, I actually have a very soft spot for him. We would be friends. I think he just doesn't have the spine. I'm sorry, Lydia. I think he just doesn't have the spine to do the right thing for the country. He's always open to ideas and suggestions. And for me, out of all these things that have been said, the one that took me aback the most, forget about Ruto saying, don't kill my children. The one that took me aback the most is when the president said, you have been insulting me for 3 years. I had the power to kill you, but I didn't do it.
He didn't say
that. He said it's there. He said, and we can read it. Wait, it is there. It is there. He said, I have done nothing. I had the power to. I'm not
he didn't say to kill you.
Yeah, but he didn't say
no. He said I had
that
the
was
power.
the context. You know, we can read,
and you can't say someone who has taken on the biggest infrastructure gap in this country.
When I say
and dealt with it head on at the expense of his political capital.
Okay, the biggest infrastructure
at the expense of his political capital.
Ladies.
So wait. So what I'm saying
is
no. Political. Let me tell you, Lydia.
It's important.
He is as in. I have never seen. Even in a relationship or even for your child, you do not want someone who is so open to suggestion that everything sounds like a good
Lydia,
idea. Always, if
Lydia,
people have given
Rita,
you, whether
Rita.
in your party, I'm the Rita, she's the Lydia, even in your party, when people have given you the power to stand up, and that's what you're calling taking hostage, and that's the problem we have with Raila. If people have given you the mandate to represent them, it is not your willy-nilly to wake up and say, I don't feel like I'm feeling a certain way. We will hold you to accountable. And that's what I'm talking about.
Rita.
Having accountability to the voters, having accountability to your base. And that is why he's lost Mount Kenya, because he's not been accountable. And even when you say he's lost... Oh, sorry, City.
Yes.
I was just finishing.
Finish your point, Rita,
yes.
please.
And even when you say that it's a timing issue, him reconciling with Ruto, probably if Ruto went to him, he would still be open to the suggestion of the reconciliation.
Lydia seems to see that there will be a reconciliation in the offing.
Oh, but I think Lydia's onto something. You know why?
I am certain of it.
Early on this morning when we were talking, I said, this narrative that the gloves are off, I said they are not. If the gloves were off, the things you'd be hearing both parties saying about each other because they know
each other,
it would be horrendous.
Absolutely.
Those hands are in some velvet. It isn't an iron hand. What is it about Kenyans? You have someone who tells you what to do at every turn is a dictator. You have someone who is open to ideas and accommodates views. Is spineless. Come on. So what do you want?
Thank you.
Let me ask you a question.
Let me first of all.
Let me ask a question, because
everyone has questions.
Yes,
now we all
I've asked a question. Do ask your question.
Our time is actually running down, and I think that we're getting to a point whereby we might be going into historical issues, and then looking away from what we're dealing with going forward. Right? We have an election that's taking place on the 7th. There are many things that are bouncing around, and shouting at us right now. And one of those issues is the IEBC. In 1 minute, if possible, ladies, what are your thoughts
You'll tell me
about the IEBC holding a credible election today? Rita,
my thoughts have been and will always be, in any decent democracy, a man like Chebukati should not be running elections, because in his term, we have seen commissioners resign because they were doubting, or they said they are not, he's not providing leadership. We have seen people die, or a person die in his elections. He has been called out by the Supreme Court for having irregularities and illegalities. He has asked his CEO, who logged into the server with my credentials and inserted some figures. We have never received responses for those things to date. We do not have a full audit report, as Supreme Court asked, that he has presented to the court today. on a moral and ethical and for the sake of integrity, Chebukati should not be in that office. Everything we are facing right now.
So the question that was asked.
Everything we are facing right now that looks like an IEBC problem could just be eliminated by this man stepping aside. But since he's there, and I have seen he's trying to do better with his communication the past few weeks, I encourage him to continue communicating with all stakeholders.
So are we going to have a credible election?
With Chebukati at the helm? I feel he's been made to feel a bit comfortable.
Are we going to have a credible election?
No, I think
it's a very direct question.
My answer is Chebukati is feeling comfortable with his incompetence.
All right.
That is he's feeling comfortable with his incompetence.
Lydia? I believe that we will have a credible election, not just because I believe in the human resource that is inside of IEBC, but because of the vigilance that I am expecting from the political players right now. I'm expecting a huge, investment in agents by both the Raila Odinga campaign and the Ruto campaign. And so there'll be very little room for anybody to machinate anything, because ultimately what is an election? An election is the people making a decision on who they want to lead them. So long as people are able to walk into a polling station, they are able to cast their vote, that vote is counted accurately and tabulated accurately, I do not anticipate any other problems. Everything else is shenanigans. And let me also say this. We need to stop equating. I had put a timer for her.
Right.
We need to stop equating.
So she's eaten my minute.
No, I actually put 5 minutes. We need to stop equating IEBC to Chebukati. Because there is this sense when you ask somebody a question about IEBC, they immediately pivot to Chebukati. But remember, Chebukati is only one commissioner. Decisions of the IEBC is only the chairman.
I disagree. It's like saying we cannot equate government to
decisions in the commission are by majority vote. That's the first thing you have to remember.
And also there's a secretariat that actually does the day-to-day work.
And when you see them in a press conference, they look like they're not
has officials who are competently recruited on merit, and they are at every level, at the national level, regional level, county level, constituency level, ward level, polling center level, polling station level. So you can imagine how many people, when you say that IEBC is incompetent, you better be telling me that thousands and thousands and thousands of staff are incompetent.
Okay.
But instead,
you know
we are
what?
focusing on one man.
I hear you. This was season 1, episode 1. And I think, ladies, we need to come back into the room and open up some of these issues, because we just barely started to scratch the surface of this. So is that a yes, you'll come back? We'll do it? Yes?
Yeah.
Lydia, Rita?
Yeah, we have a few days to election, so I don't know if
we'll see what can be done.
Yeah.
All right. We're coming to the close of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. Thank you. It's been a riveting one, that's for sure. The conversations continue tomorrow. Thank you for being with us. Lydia, Madhya, and Rita Oyer, thanks for being here this hour. And as we come to the close of things, remind you that Pocket by Mozilla, as you're reading these things, listening to these things, storing those videos away, that you can have an opportunity to share them later. Download Google Play Store, Apple App Store. The conversations continue tomorrow. It's 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Settle. With political campaigns entering the home stretch this week, the two presidential frontrunners for the August 9th election have intensified their vote hunt